Chapter 46-35. Boom boom boom. Bursts of Buddhist aura surged, and the huge golden Buddha statue turned into a huge Buddhist lotus, and in another moment, the huge Buddhist lotus turned into hundreds of millions of even smaller Buddhist lotuses, rushed into the night sky, and disappeared in all directions of the hidden immortal continent. Amitabha. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord saw the Buddhist lotus vanish, and the tidal current temple reappeared in the night sky. He pressed his palms together and said, "Your Majesty, today is a joyous occasion for my Thunder Sound Temple and the Immortal Palace. Can you work together with me to take down the mortal world object that is obstructing the sound of Namo Great Compassion, and allow me to consecrate the first Buddha statue in the hidden immortal continent?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen squinted his eyes. According to their previous discussion, there was no such thing. After the Mahavairakana World Lord's Buddhist decree bestowed upon Xuanzang, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha should consecrate Nanwu Merciful Guanyin. Immortal Emperor Gaochen didn't have to do anything, nor did he have to say anything. Perhaps, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha's World Lord thought of doing something unnecessary because of the primordial chaos ancestor's words. Immortal Emperor Gaochen wanted to reject it. However, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World's words were so righteous that Immortal Emperor Gaochen couldn't think of any reason to reject it. Seeing that the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World had already landed in front of the golden Buddha statue, Immortal Emperor Gaochen could only follow suit. Rise. The Gaochen Immortal Emperor and the Dipankara Archaic Buddha looked at each other and waved their hands at the same time. The silk cloth had already been removed from Namo Great Merciful Guanyin's Buddha statue. In the night, the 99 zhang tall Buddha statue was finally revealed. The benevolent appearance of the Buddha statue caused Xiao Hua to sigh with emotion in his heart. The real and fake Ci Hang were all appearances. The real Guanyin Bodhisattva was the real one. Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord chanted and said, "In my name, I erect the statue of my Buddhism. Namo Great Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva's golden body shall emit Buddhist radiance. May the benevolence of my Buddha be gathered on Guanyin's body, and save millions of Buddhists." As he spoke, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord raised his right hand and pressed his thumb, a dazzling Buddha seal, from head to toe, the golden Buddha statue. The Buddha's radiance was different from the previous Buddha statue. First, the Buddha's radiance from head to toe, golden body, from head to toe of Buddha, of the Buddha's radiance of Buddha, of the Buddha's Buddha statue, forming a huge funnel of Buddha of Buddha. The of Buddha's of Buddha was of Guanyin's Guanyin the world. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha was a little surprised to see how different the consecration this time was. However, when he saw the Buddha statue's translucent Buddha radiance and the power of faith descending upon it, the Buddha statue became even more lifelike. Only then did he relax and clasped his palms together. Excellent, excellent. With the power of Buddha, it's time to deliver all living beings from torment. However, before his Buddha fire could land on the ground, an extremely profound fluctuation was emitted from the Buddha statue, which was brimming with the power of faith. As soon as this fluctuation was emitted, it transcended space and landed on Xiao Hua's body. As this fluctuation descended, the surging power of faith changed its direction and landed on Xiao Hua's head. Then, Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Maitreya Buddha. A series of Buddhist chants resounded, and the power of faith poured into Xiao Hua's head. Buddhas of Buddha radiance shone from Xiao Hua's body once again, and Sanskrit chants resounded once more. Another phenomenon of Buddha fruit appeared under everyone's astonishment. Not good. As soon as the fluctuation was emitted, Xiao Hua could already feel the crystalline Godhead in his mind trembling slightly. His expression immediately changed, and he knew that something had happened. Unfortunately, before he could activate any abilities, the fluctuation had already landed on his crystalline Godhead and triggered the Buddha fruit. However, Xiao Hua's of Buddha fruit was different from the Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva. No radiance appeared behind Xiao Hua's head, and the endless power of faith simply disappeared after landing on the back of his head. This is? Not only was the Dipankara Archaic Buddha shocked, but even the golden-winged great rock, Immortal Emperor Gaochen, and the primordial mist ancestor were shocked. The primordial mist ancestor even felt a hint of joy in his heart, thinking that this was the Buddhism sect's secret move. As the fluctuation landed on the crystalline godhead flickered with a faint golden radiance. As soon as the golden radiance appeared, the fluctuation changed again and quickly shrunk back. At the same time, the Buddha light on the Buddha statue's golden body emitted a chaotic sound, and an even brighter Buddha light surged upwards. When the golden radiance dissipated, everyone's gaze landed on the Buddha statue's face, and they were all dumbfounded. This was because the Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva's appearance was no different from Xiaohua's. The primordial mist ancestor even turned his head to look at Xiaohua, then at the Buddha statue's golden body, and then at Xiaohua again. His head spun like a rattle drum. This. The Dipankara archaic Buddha opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. He even forgot to recite the Buddha's name. I understand now. The gloomy immortal Emperor Go-Chen was the first to come to his senses. He clapped his hands and laughed. That benevolent hang who stopped the heavenly cave river dragon race in the Longevity Town and used a Buddhist artifact to collect the Liao River's water was actually Thunder Master Zhao's transformation. No wonder Thunder Master Xiao wasn't there when benevolent hang appeared, and Thunder Master Xiao only appeared after benevolent hang left. Congratulations, Thunder Master Xiao. Congratulations, Thunder's Sound Temple. The immortal Emperor Go-Chen had vented his anger. He was forced by the Thunder Sound Temple to use the sutra seeking extreme bliss. However, the Thunder Sound Temple had calculated everything, and it ended up benefiting Xiaohua. Although the immortal Emperor Go-Chen didn't gain anything, the Thunder Sound Temple had lost a lot. How could he not be happy? Amitabha. The Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva hurriedly said, "This Buddha statue's golden body isn't mine." Strange. The golden-winged great rock laughed. Little monk, didn't you see the power of faith in the hidden immortal continent? Didn't it all fall into Taoist Zhao's body? Doesn't this mean that he is the real Namo great compassionate Guanyin Bodhisattva? It doesn't matter if he is a Buddha or not, as long as he is the Guanyin Bodhisattva of all living Buddhas. Oh, this saint still remembers your Buddha saying, "Form is emptiness, emptiness is form?" Taoist Xiao has a Buddhist heart, so why do you care if he is a Buddha or not? Also, the immortal Emperor Go-Chen added fuel to the fire. My immortal palace recognizes this Buddha statue's golden body. As for the appearance of this Buddha statue, my immortal palace doesn't care. If your Buddhist sect changes the Buddha statue's golden body again, you can only use the sutra seeking extreme bliss again. The Grand Mist ancestor's expression was complicated. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but when he looked at the Taoist rider Crane and the Dark Night Child, he didn't know what to say. The truth that Xiaohua was the Namo great compassionate Guanyin Bodhisattva was the biggest and most laughable secret they had ever seen in their lives. Namo Amitabha. Seeing the power of faith continuously entering Xiaohua's body, the Dipankara archaic Buddha's benevolent expression on the Buddha statue's golden body was vivid and lifelike. Thinking about Xiaohua, the Dipankara archaic Buddha immediately made a decision. He politely put his palms together and bowed to Xiaohua. Congratulations to the Guanyin Bodhisattva for achieving the Buddha fruit. Namo Amitabha. Namo Great Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva also stepped forward and bowed. Manjushri greets senior apprentice brother Guanyin. This. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If Xiaohua hadn't cultivated to the Mahayana realm, he wouldn't mind becoming the Guanyin Bodhisattva. However, now that he was a Taoism's supreme cultivator, he didn't care about the Buddha fruit. However, he had done a lot of good deeds, and when the Buddha statue's golden body was consecrated, he finally achieved the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit. Amitabha. Xiaohua was quite familiar with Buddhism's etiquette. He raised his hand and helped the Namo Great Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva up. You and I are old acquaintances. There's no need to be so polite. Senior apprentice brother has just attained the Buddha fruit. You can go with the Buddha of Xuanji Merit and the victorious devil-vanquishing Buddha to the Thunder Sound Temple to meet the Mahavairakana World Lord. Namo Great Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva smiled. Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand. Forget it, forget it. I won't be going to the Thunder Sound Temple at this moment, a voice filled with joy and determination said, Amitba, Dipankara Archaic Buddha, I won't be going to the Thunder Sound Temple either. I'll be going to the west to seek scriptures. Although this voice wasn't loud, the Buddha lights that had disappeared immediately surged out once again and covered the entire Longevity town. This time, the Buddha lights were slightly different from before. Each Buddha light condensed into a tiny Buddha lotus, and on each lotus sat a smiling Buddha. The Buddha's face couldn't be seen clearly, and the grade of the lotus was unknown. The Buddha Lord's Great Wish? This is the Buddha Lord's Great Wish. It's comparable to the Namo Great Wish, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's Great Wish. Seeing such a Buddha light phenomenon, Xiaohua was stunned. Like everyone else, he focused his attention on the source of this voice. It came from Chuanzong, who had just attained the 4 stars meritorious Buddha fruit. Ah? Everyone, the demons, and the Buddhas were all shocked. An indescribable feeling arose in their hearts, and they almost blurted it out. What's going on? Is today destined to be recorded in the annals of the 3 continents? Everyone knew that Xiaohua wouldn't go to the Thunder Monastery. Not to mention that a Taoist Mahayana realm cultivator entering the Thunder Monastery was equivalent to handing his life to the Vairocana world sovereign. Just the fact that Xiaohua had ambushed the Buddhist sect in the Longevity town made him too embarrassed to appear in front of the Vairocana world sovereign. But what was Chuanzong the Buddha of Xuanji meritorious virtue up to? What was he up to this time? Chapter 46-36. Namo Wisdom Manjushri looked at the astonished Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha and said, Amitba, Xuanji meritorious Buddha, if you want to preach the Sanzang Buddhist scriptures in the Longevity town and save all living beings, it's fine if you don't go to the Thunder Sound Temple to listen to the Revered One's teachings. If the Revered One knows about it, not only will he not punish you, he will even reward you. But you've already brought the Sanzang Mahayana Buddhist scriptures to the hidden Immortal continent. You still want to go to the West to seek scriptures? Where is the West? The scriptures you seek. What scriptures are they? In this world, other than the Thunder Sound Temple, what other scriptures are worth seeking? The Xuanji meritorious Buddha, Chuanzong, put his palms together and replied calmly, Namo Amitba, Dipankara Archaic Buddha, the Revered One, and Namo Wisdom Manjushri, please know that when I was still a child, I entered Nirvana for many years. When I entered Nirvana, I saw the Western Paradise. I clearly remember that when I entered Nirvana, I walked towards the West for hundreds of years. That's the true origin of my Buddhism, where my Buddhism's true intent lies. Oh no, this is bad. After hearing Chuanzong's words, Xiaohua recalled what Wang Bianfei said when he came out from the space. That little monk wants to head towards the Western Paradise. He has been trekking for hundreds of years. Xiaohua unwittingly came to a realization as he thought to himself, Wang Bianfei has already mentioned this matter previously. Although Jianghu in the space has entered Nirvana, he must have seen the immortal herbs and other things in the space and thought that this was the Pure Land. And the place where I imprisoned him just so happened to be the east side of the Shenhua continent. He must be heading towards where those immortal herbs are. But how can I explain it to him? Why don't I wait for him to start seeking scriptures, then I'll use the Kunlun mirror to explain it to him. Namo Wisdom Manjushri was speechless. He was a bodhisattva, which was lower than Chuanzong's Xuanji meritorious Buddha. Thus, he couldn't criticize Chuanzong in front of everyone. Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha's face was enraged. He looked at Chuanzong, then at Jinkong and scolded, You have wasted the Revered One's care. Chuanzong was extremely confused. He looked at Jinkong, not understanding what the Dipankara Archaic Buddha was saying. Amitban, at this moment, Jinkong stepped forward and respectfully kneeled on the ground and kowtowed, Buddha, I have a great ambition to find the true Buddha scriptures and spread my Buddha's light throughout the world. I've also decided that I'm willing to follow the Buddha of Xuanji math virtue to the west and continue to seek scriptures. Let's go together, let's go together. Zhen Jie saw this and jumped out as well. Its big ears flapped as it shouted, The Thunder Temple is really stingy. They only gave me the Buddha fruit of a heaven-vigilant arhat. They really let me down. I want to follow my master to the west and get myself a Buddha Lord identity. He didn't expect Yuan Tongtian to be so benevolent. Not only did Yuan Tongtian keep his orders in mind, but he also wanted to follow Jianghu and protect her. Seeing Buddha, Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and looked at Zhen Han and Dragon Horse Zhen Feng. Unfortunately, Dragon Horse Zhen Han and Dragon Horse Zhen Han were confused. They looked at each other and didn't step forward. Clearly, they didn't know about this. Evil creature. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord scolded, which he rarely did. Buddhist lights flashed all around him. There is only one Thunder Sound monastery in this world, and only one Mahavairakana World Lord. Where are the true Buddhist scriptures? Where are the true Buddha Lord's Buddhist lights? The Great Snow Mountain's small exquisite temple. Immortal Emperor Gaochen laughed. Namo Maitreya Buddha is the future Buddha Lord. He naturally has the true Buddha scriptures and the Buddha's Buddha light. The Xuanji Maitreya Buddha, Chuanzong, raised his head and looked towards the west. It was still pitch black, and there were only specks of starlight hanging in the sky, guiding the people in the night. Chuanzong said, Amitba, benefactor, you're wrong. Disciple isn't going to the Great Snow Mountain or the Blessed Lands. Disciple is going to the west, cross the West Sea, and head towards the abyss of the West Sea. The is my Buddha light. Chuanzong's words were like a clap of thunder, stunning Xiaohua. He looked at Chuanzong in disbelief and thought, West, the abyss of the West Sea. Isn't it just the Maitreya Sea? Isn't that where I came from? What is the Maitreya Sea? Isn't it just the Dawn Rain continent? What is there in the Dawn Rain continent? Isn't it just the ruins of Buddhism? Could it be that Lu knows about the ruins of Buddhism in the Dawn Rain continent? Impossible. Lu was only a few years old when he entered Serenity. How could he know about the ruins of Buddhism? At that time, let alone senior sister, even I didn't know about the ruins of Buddhism, right? Thinking of this, Xiaohua thought of the day when Buddha Bodhi obtained the Buddha fruit of Namo Maitreya. Lu was the reincarnation of the future Buddha Lord. When he came here, he actually abandoned the position of Buddha Lord. The future Buddha Lord, one of the three great Buddha Lords of Buddhism, has a very high status. If there was no special reason, how could he give it up? That ball of golden light. Thinking of this, Xiaohua understood. It's that ball of golden light. It must be the words that the reincarnated Buddha Maitreya left for the reincarnated Jianghu. That day, entered Serenity and headed west. It looked like he was heading towards the center of Shenhua continent, but in fact, he was heading west. At that time, although he didn't obtain the golden light, he already had a long-cherished wish in his heart, which was to head west. Oh my Jianghu, my nephew. I'm afraid his background is not small. Bah, of course his background is not small. He is one of the three great Buddha Lords of Buddhism. But Xiaohua was still confused. Is there anything more noble than the future Buddha Lord of Buddhism in this world? He actually made Jianghu give up the position of the future Buddha Lord? Maitreya Buddha. Xiaohua suddenly thought of something. This guy must know something. Otherwise, how could he fall out with the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord as soon as he entered Lane Temple? There must be something fishy about this. Forget it, this is a matter of Buddhism. Why should I worry about it? Who wants to go, then go. There is only sea water in the West Sea. The so-called space passage is smaller than finding a needle in a haystack. If he didn't know where it is, even with the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord's divine sense, he wouldn't be able to find it. Lu is just some Buddha of Xuanji merit. What ability does he have to return to Xiaoyu continent? Besides, if he could find the way back, wouldn't I be able to return as well? While Xiaohua was pondering, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha Lord's shocked expression gradually faded away. He looked at the great aspiration Buddha lotuses that filled the sky and gradually disappeared into the void. He put his palms together and chanted, Amitba Buddha. Evil fate, Buddha of Xuanji merit, victorious devil-slaying Buddha. This matter is of great importance. I must report it to the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord. Amitba Buddha. The victorious devil-slaying Buddha Zhenkong said, This matter has nothing to do with my Buddha. It's fine if you don't report it. Xiaohua couldn't help but laugh at Zhen Kong's straightforward rejection. He raised his hand and pointed, "Zhen Kong, come here." The victorious devil-slaying Buddha hesitated for a moment. He walked in front of Xiaohua and smiled, "Taoist Xiao, this junior is here." Xiaohua smiled, "You have already attained Buddhism. You don't have to call yourself a junior anymore. This junior will always remember Taoist's guidance." The victorious devil-slaying Buddha said respectfully, "Taoist will always be this junior's benefactor." Xiaohua smiled faintly, very satisfied with the victorious devil-slaying Buddha's respect. He raised his hand and took out the wishful scepter, saying, "Of course, this Xiao has already made it clear on the Great Snow Mountain. After you finish praying in bliss, this wishful scepter is yours." Today, this Xiao came to the Longevity Town not only to congratulate Xuanzang, but also to give this wishful scepter to you. The victorious devil-slaying Buddha was overjoyed. He raised both hands and respectfully received the wishful scepter. The moment the wishful scepter entered his hand, it actually sank a few centimeters. The victorious devil-slaying Buddha quickly stabilized it and said, "This junior thanks Taoist for his gift." "Alright." Xiaohua smiled and helped the victorious devil-slaying Buddha up. He looked around and didn't hide anything, saying encouragingly, "This old man was thinking of waiting until you finished praying in bliss, then choosing a disciple to take you into the fortune gate. But since you're willing to enter Buddhism, and the Vairocana Buddha revered has taken a liking to you, this old man won't compete with him. From now on, your fate with me has come to an end. You must cultivate well, and don't repeat the same mistake." "Yes, this junior understands." The victorious devil-slaying Buddha's face was filled with emotions as he nodded. Xiaohua smiled and said, "Escort Xuanzang to continue praying in the West. This old man has high hopes for you." "Many thanks for senior's support." The victorious devil-slaying Buddha respectfully walked to the side of the Buddha of Xuanji Virtuous Virtue. It was only at this moment that the Buddha of Xuanji Virtuous Virtue seemed to have awakened from a dream. He looked at Xiaohua gratefully and opened his mouth, wanting to say something but hesitated. Some words didn't need to be said, and some love was already engraved in his heart. This old man almost forgot. Seeing the victorious devil-slaying Buddha leave, Xiaohua suddenly slapped his forehead as if he had thought of something. He smiled and said, "Now that you're a Buddha, you're no longer as arrogant and violent as before. This old man's methods should be withdrawn." After saying that, Xiaohua didn't bother to make any hand seals. He raised his hand and a bolt of lightning flashed, landing directly on the victorious devil-slaying Buddha's head. The victorious devil-slaying Buddha was shocked and wanted to dodge, but even though he was the victorious devil-slaying Buddha, his strength was far inferior to Xiaohua's. How could he dodge? The lightning flashed and hit him. However, after the lightning flashed, the victorious devil-slaying Buddha didn't change much. The sun-moon corona that Xiaohua had expected didn't appear on his head either. Xiaohua was stunned. He grabbed at the air again, and a shadow fell on top of the victorious devil-slaying Buddha's head. Chapter 4637. Amitabha, this is bad. How could the Dipankara archaic Buddha not know what had happened? How could he not know what the Mahavairocana archaic Buddha had done wrong? He couldn't help but exclaim. Jinfeng was definitely not without a backer. Moreover, this backer was terrifyingly powerful. Only, after the Dipankara archaic Buddha's exclamation, he shut his mouth. At this point, who could hide the truth of this matter in the three great continents? He couldn't, the Mahavairocana archaic Buddha couldn't, and the Maitreya Buddha couldn't as well. Seeing that the sun-moon corona didn't appear, Xiaohua didn't suspect anything and said with a smile, "Mahavairocana is really merciful, to actually remove your Tao crown without my consent. Could it be that he was afraid that I would snatch his disciple?" The victorious exorcism Buddha felt guilty for no reason. Although he was good at hearing and could discern the truth, he could see everything clearly. Moreover, if he stood in one place, he could know what was happening 1,000 miles away. He could also hear what mortals were saying. Thus, he was good at hearing and could discern the truth, he could see everything clearly. And yet, as he stood in front of Xiaohua, His divine ability fell upon nothing but emptiness. Even Xiaohua's figure was illusory. He couldn't tell what Xiaohua was thinking, what he was seeing, and what he was hearing. Furthermore, there was no way he could know what the Dao crown Xiaohua was talking about was, or what should have been on top of his head. Thus, he quickly smiled and said, "Yes, that day at the Thunder Sound Temple, the archaic Buddha saw the invisible Dao crown on my head and felt that it wasn't appropriate for me to be a Buddhist disciple." At that time, unfortunately, before victorious purged demon Buddha could finish speaking, Xiaohua frowned. His eyes flashed like lightning as he stared at victorious purged demon Buddha. At first, victorious purged demon Buddha didn't dare to dodge, but after a moment, his eyes began to flicker. "Damn it! You're not Yuan Tongtong!" Xiaohua roared angrily. He raised his hand and grabbed, instantly imprisoning the victorious demon slay Buddha. He shouted, "Who are you? How dare you pretend to be Yuan Tongtian?" Seeing this, not only was Chunzong shocked, but even Zhenjie, Zhenhan, and Zhenfeng were shocked. They didn't expect that the real and fake Shen Kong would still be unable to tell the difference after they had arrived at the Thunder Sound Temple. What's more, he let this fake Shen Kong Nirvana Extreme Bliss seek sutras for nearly 50 years. Zhenhan and Zhenfeng glanced at the silent Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord and seemed to have thought of something. With a thoughtful look on their faces, they quickly shut their mouths as well. Whether it was the Fortune Gate or the Thunder Tune Temple, neither of them were forces they could afford to offend. "Damn it. You're the fake Shen Kong. You actually deceived me for so long," Zhenjie shouted. Boom! A thunderous hand streaked across the sky and slapped Zhenjie's face. Zhenjie, who was at the 8th grade of elemental energy, didn't even have the strength to resist. His entire body tumbled in midair. Xiaohua's cold voice sounded, "Devouring heaven, this old man asked you to take good care of Chunzong and Jin Kong. How did you do it?" "Enlightened One, spare my life. Enlightened One, spare my life." Zhenjie had seen how Xiaohua killed the heaven-swallowing beast. Now that he saw Xiaohua get angry, the surrounding space was filled with coldness, and layers of lightning were like guillotines surging in the sky above Jianghu Temple. He had long been scared out of his wits and shouted in midair, "This matter has nothing to do with me. I wasn't there at that time." In order to save his life, Zhenjie briefly recounted the matter of him chasing after Ni Quan. He shouted, "As for the specifics, I'm also not clear." Xiaohua gritted his teeth and took a deep breath, temporarily suppressing the anger in his chest. He looked at the victorious demon vanquishing Buddha whose eyes were filled with terror and ignored him. He looked at Chunzhen and said, "Chunzong, tell me what is going on." Chunzhen hesitated for a moment. After recovering from his shock, he turned around to take a look. The entire process was as clear as a mirror. This Shen Kong was definitely not Yuan Tongtian, and the real Yuan Tongtian had already disappeared from the shores of the Eastern Sea. However, he was very conflicted in his heart. Previously, Shen Kong did his best to protect him, but he was also arrogant and unruly. He often killed Dao Gate cultivators and demonic beast race cultivators, which really made Chunzhen worried to death. There were also many clashes between them. After arriving at the hidden Immortal continent, although this fake Shen Kong was not as devoted to protecting him as the real Shen Kong, he was still very respectful and courteous toward him. This was especially true as this fake Shen Kong was also proficient in Buddhist techniques and would often debate with him. Chunzong naturally had his suspicions when he saw Shen Kong's improvement and change. However, Chunzong was clear that it was impossible for the Thunder Temple's Mahavarakana revered Buddha to not be able to differentiate between the real and fake Shen Kong. This Shen Kong must be the real Shen Kong. The reason why he changed was just like what Shen Kong said after returning from the Thunder Temple. After seeing the expression of the real and fake Shen Kong, he was enlightened by the Mahavarakana revered Buddha. He knew that his previous inadequacies were being changed by his efforts. What Chunzong saw was different from the previous Shen Kong. It was his change. Now that Chunzong thought about it again, his heart was filled with bitterness. He mocked himself for being childish and avoiding it. Although people could change, their nature couldn't be changed. It was the same for the demonic beast race. Yuan Tongtian was arrogant and killed people without hesitation. Although he wanted to change, how could he change in the blink of an eye? It wasn't that he didn't suspect if this Zhen Kong was Yuan Tongtian. Instead, he was avoiding it because he liked the fake Zhen Kong and didn't like the real Zhen Kong. He had let down Yuan Tongtian, who sincerely protected him. If I treat Yuan Tongtian like this, then what about the Mahavairakana revered Buddha? Chunzang thought more than Xiaohua. Seeing Chunzang's hesitation, the Dipankara archaic Buddha spoke, Amitabha. Benefactor Xiao. Shut up. Xiaohua roared and stopped the Dipankara archaic Buddha from speaking. He yelled, Old Dipankara, it's not that I don't want to give your Thunder Temple a chance. It's just that it's not the time for you to speak. If you dare to say anything else, I'll kill you and Manjushri first before leading the Fortune Gate's disciples to attack the Thunder Temple. I'm not interested in the Guanyin Bodhisattva's Buddha fruit, but I'm interested in the Buddha Lord's Buddha seat. Hearing this, the Gaochen Immortal Emperor's eyes lit up. The Grand Mist Ancestor, who had been quietly observing, also revealed a smile. How could the Dipankara archaic Buddha fall for it? He smiled and ignored Xiaohua's words. He didn't want to argue with Xiaohua anymore. Unfortunately, the Dipankara archaic Buddha was too weak. He had already underestimated Xiaohua's strength. If Xiaohua had truly given up and killed him in the Longevity Town regardless of the price he had to pay, it wouldn't be a joke. Seeing Xiaohua so angry, Chuanzang also became alert in his heart. He sighed and explained the cause of the matter in full detail. Tai Bai Jinxing. Xiaohua turned his head without hesitation and looked at Tai Bai Jinxing. Speak. Yes, Lightning Master Xiao. Tai Bai Jinxing didn't feel any pressure facing the Lightning Master of the Immortal Palace. Although he had already seen through it, he didn't point it out. Instead, he kicked this troublesome matter to the Thunder Temple. As such, he casually told everything he knew. Xiaohua squinted his eyes and looked at the Nanwu Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva, who had gone through life and death with him. His gaze was filled with hostility. Nanwu Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva didn't feel any pressure. That day, he had already seen through who was the real fire ape and who was the real six-eared macaque. However, he didn't make any decision. Still, he glanced at the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Amitabha. Now that things have come to this, tell me the truth. The Dipankara archaic Buddha pressed his palms together. Yes, World Lord. Nanwu Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva told him everything he saw by the East Sea shore, how he had already seen through the reason but couldn't differentiate between the real and the fake. He then brought the two Zhen Kongs to the Thunder Temple, and how Yuan Tongtian was killed by the fake Zhen Kong. Hearing that Yuan Tongtian had been killed, Xiaohua's eyes turned red. Yuan Tongtian was loyal to him and followed his orders to protect Jianghu. Who would have thought that he would be killed by the fake Zhen Kong in the Thunder Temple? Such an ending made Xiaohua furious. Xiaohua looked at the fake Zhen Kong that he had imprisoned and laughed. Poor Yuan Tong. He was killed by you in front of Mahavairakana. Mahavairakana is really blind. I really want to know what kind of background you have to have Mahavairakana protect you. After saying that, Xiaohua slapped his forehead and used another ability of the delusion-breaking Dharma, Heavenly Eye. However, when Xiaohua saw it clearly, his eyes widened and he yelled, Damn it, damn it, damn it. It's actually the six-eared macaque. I should have strangled you to death that day. I shouldn't have listened to Master Ma Qin and let you live. Now, I've angered Yuan Tongtian and lost my life because of it. After saying that, Xiaohua raised his hand, and a bolt of lightning flashed on his finger. It pierced through the void and was about to pierce the six-eared macaque's heart. Amitabha. Xiao Tanyue, please show mercy. Please listen to this old monk's explanation. It won't be too late to attack after that. The Dipankara archaic Buddha didn't dare to be careless. He raised his hand, and Buddha lights appeared out of nowhere. A ninth-rank Buddha lotus blocked the lightning. Buddha lights overflowed from the Buddha lotus, and countless Buddha kingdoms appeared from within. Damn you, ball donkey! Xiaohua sneered and said angrily, You dare to show off in front of this old man with such means? Do you think I can't kill you? Xiaohua didn't take any action and allowed the Buddhist lotus to block the Buddhist light. The seemingly dim lightning struck the Buddhist lotus and a huge rumbling sound was produced. The Buddhist kingdom was instantly annihilated and the Buddhist lotus also withered to an extreme degree. Amidst the explosion, the lightning flew towards the six-eared macaque's heart like Xiaohua's killing intent. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's expression changed greatly. He realized that Xiaohua's threat wasn't just empty words. However, if he wanted to attack now, it was too late. Chapter 46:38. Seeing that the six-eared macaque was about to be killed, Chunzong suddenly knelt on the ground and said, "Uncle, please restrain your thunderous rage and listen to what the Dipankara archaic Buddha has to say. Boy, I only just learned that Zhen Kong had died. I've let Zhen Kong down. If I've done something wrong, I'll have to bear the responsibility." The word, uncle, was like a sudden clap of thunder, striking everyone in the field. Even the Dipankara archaic Buddha was dumbfounded once again. This was the biggest secret of the sutra praying of nirvana. It was even bigger than the secret of Zhen Kong being sent by Xiaohua. This was a secret that even the Mahavairakana archaic Buddha didn't know about. What's the background of this Xiaohua? The primordial mist ancestor squinted his eyes and thought to himself, not only is he the dragon master of the Dragon Island, the thunder master of the Immortal Palace, the Buddhist sect's Namo Great Merciful Mahavairakana Bodhisattva, even the Xuanji Mahavairakana Buddha is his nephew. Who in the three continents can rival him? If Xiaohua isn't eliminated, how can my sky-bearing palace rise? Golden radiances flickered in the golden-winged great rock's eyes. While he was shocked, he was glad that he had the intention to befriend Xiaohua. As for the Go-Chin Immortal Emperor, his face was blocked by the golden radiances. Although he was feeling complicated, no one knew what he was thinking. Seeing Chunzong kneeling and calling him uncle, Xiaohua pondered for a moment and kept the lightning radiances. He said calmly, "Lu, you're the Xuanji Mahavairakana Buddha and my nephew. I can't ignore your words. However, Yuan Tongtian was ordered by me to protect you. He was loyal to you. Now that he died in such a pitiful manner, we'll investigate his death to the end. If you're in the wrong, don't blame me for being ruthless." Yes, boy understands. Although I don't know what exactly happened, I feel that the secret behind this seems to be beyond your imagination and even beyond the imagination of the venerables of the world. Chuanzong hurriedly expressed his thoughts. Xiaohua looked at the Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord. The Dipankara archaic Buddha let out a sigh. After sending a voice transmission, Immortal Emperor Go-Chin smiled. "Dipankara archaic Buddha, since you have something to say, why don't you make it public? If you were to deceive my Immortal Palace's Master Lei, I'm afraid that even if he was involved, he wouldn't know." "Motherfucker, shut up." Xiaohua felt vexed for no reason and scolded, "Gao-Chin old man, and you, this old man still hasn't settled the score with you. If you don't tell me where the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal is, I won't let you leave Longevity Town." Boom. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen's body shone with golden light. It seemed like he was about to get angry. The golden-winged great Peng beside him laughed and said, "Not bad, not bad. I've heard that Xiao Longshi is infatuated with the new princess. For the sake of his love, he killed 900,000 disciples of the four great clans. Today, this holy sage will lend Xiao Longshi a helping hand." Damn it. Immortal Emperor Go-Chin cursed. The radiance only circled around him and didn't attack. If the great sage Hall joined forces with the Fortune Gate, the Immortal Palace might not be their match. In order to seek justice for Yuan Tongtian, Xiaohua didn't hesitate to glare at the three exalted experts of the three continents and said to the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord, "Amitba, it's like this." Naturally, the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord wouldn't let Immortal Emperor Go-Chin, the primordial mist ancestor, and the others know about the Thunder Sound Temple's secret. Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart was filled with complex emotions. He didn't know what to say. The six-eared macaque was Ananda's reincarnation. However, just like the Prime Clarity Palace Lord and Grand Clarity Palace Lord's clones, Ananda didn't return to the three continents. Instead, he returned to the Dawn Rain continent. Ananda shouldn't have returned to the blessed land world. However, he met Xiaohua, and Xiaohua brought him and the fire ape Yuan Tongtian to the 3 continents. Ananda's reincarnation, the 6-eared macaque, didn't have such powerful abilities. It was impossible for him to have such powerful illusions. However, after experiencing the separation of yin and yang in his own space, his abilities were greatly enhanced. His future potential was limitless. The Mahavarakana Archaic Buddha World Lord made the right choice when facing the real Zhenkong Yuan Tongtian and the fake Zhenkong 6-eared macaque. After all, the Mahavarakana Archaic Buddha World Lord made the right choice when facing Zhenkong Yuan Tongtian and the fake Zhenkong 6-eared macaque. This was because the Mahavarakana Archaic Buddha World Lord had mistaken Zhenkong's 6-eared macaque for Ananda. In other words, in the eyes of the Mahavarakana Archaic Buddha World Lord, Jianghu and Yuan Tongtian were both fake. Only this 6-eared macaque was the real one. The fruit of defeating the demon Buddha wasn't given to Yuan Tongtian. It was given to the 6-eared macaque and Ananda. However, because of his appearance, he had snatched Nanwa Maitreya Buddha World Lord's Buddha position. Jianghu had snatched Ananda's Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra. The 6-eared macaque didn't dare to snatch it from Jianghu. He could only snatch Yuan Tongtian's. All of this happened when he appeared at the East Sea. When he appeared to scheme, he was discovered by the Mahavarakana Archaic Buddha World Lord. The Thunder Temple wasn't wrong. The Mahavarakana Archaic Buddha World Lord wasn't wrong either. At that time, it was the best time to point the 6-eared macaque as Zhenkong. This opportunity was also fought for by the 6-eared macaque with all his might. The one who was wrong could only be the 6-eared macaque and Ananda. He didn't expect the fire ape Yuan Tongtian, who had always ignored everyone, to be so loyal to Xiaohua. Xiaohua also valued Yuan Tongtian so much, because with his ability he couldn't see what was happening in the Shenhua continent. Therefore he made the wrong choice, which was to kill the fire ape. Because the 6-eared macaque couldn't see through Xiaohua's actions, he didn't know that the fire ape had a sun-moon crown on his head. As the Buddha of Xuanji Maitreya, Chunzong naturally couldn't hear the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord's voice transmission. He only saw the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord clasping his hands together and lowering his head in silence. Xiaohua looked at the sky with a complicated expression. Only then did he speak. "Uncle, boy didn't notice and let the 6-eared macaque kill Yuan Tongtian. This boy has let Yuan Tongtian down. Please punish me." Stand up. Xiaohua helped Chunzong up and shook his head. "You're just immortal. You don't know about this. Even Taibai Jinxing and Manjushri Bodhisattva don't know about this. How can you be responsible for this? Don't worry and go to the West to seek scriptures. With the protection of the chastity precepts and my reputation, if anyone dares to do anything to you, my fortune gate will kill them all." "No, uncle. You don't understand." Although Chunzong stood up, he still had tears on his face as he said, "Boy did suspect it before, but then Chunzong told Xiaohua about his regrets." Xiaohua frowned. Zhenkong was loyal to Chunzong, but he didn't have the heart to follow Buddhism. Compared to Ananda's reincarnation of the 6-eared macaque, he was much weaker. Xiaohua pondered for a while and nodded. "If that's the case, I won't pursue the Thunder Sound Temple's responsibility. However, since the 6-eared macaque killed Yuan Tongtian, I won't let it go. Even if the Mahavarakana World Lord comes, I'll still take his life." Speaking until here, Xiaohua suddenly laughed. He looked at the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord with a meaningful gaze and said, "Do you know why the Mahavarakana World Lord didn't come to the Longevity Town?" "Amitabha." The Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord shook his head and said, "Xiao Tan, you're overthinking. The World Lord isn't such a scheming person. He had already paid the price when Yuan Tongtian was killed. I don't care what the price is." Xiaohua only wanted to take revenge for Yuan Tongtian. He waved his hand and said, "I only want to kill the 6-eared macaque to take revenge for Yuan Tongtian." "Amitabha." The Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord felt helpless. He knew that Xiaohua's means had already surpassed his abilities. Even if he couldn't stop Xiaohua, he still wouldn't be his opponent. He looked at the 6-eared macaque and smiled bitterly. "Ananda, If you knew this would happen, why did you follow him? Have you realized it? Xiaohua snorted. The lightning in the sky dispersed, and the six-eared macaque's body was released. The six-eared macaque landed on the ground. The panic on his face had already disappeared. He looked at the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord, then looked at the Thunder Sound Temple. However, there wasn't any regret on his face. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed 9 times in the direction of the Thunder Sound Temple. He said, "Master, I've always thought that I'm smart, and that I'm the wisest person in Buddhism. However, when I was about to die, I realized that I knew nothing. You've done so much for me, and I felt that everything was natural. When I'm reborn, I'll be your disciple again. When that time comes, I hope that you won't restrict me too much. Let me have my freedom." After that, the six-eared macaque kowtowed to Chunzong again and said, "Master, although you've taken away my opportunity, I've gained a lot from following you. Although it hasn't been a long time, I've finally realized that my heart towards Buddhism is like the light of a firefly compared to Master. Master, you're my role model. Everything that I've done, I can only blame myself. The Tao of Karma is nothing more than that. Today, I'll take my leave. I wish you success in your quest for the Western scriptures, and complete your dream." Chunzong wanted to say something, but all the words he wanted to say turned into a sigh. The six-eared macaque stood up and looked at Xiaohua. He wasn't afraid at all. He said calmly, "Enlightened one, if you want to kill me, no one in this world would dare to stop you. Don't worry, I won't resist. However, you don't have the right to kill me. On the hidden immortal continent, there's only one person who has the right to decide my life or death. I only want you to follow me to a place. If that person says that I deserve to die, I won't say anything else. You don't have to do anything. I'll kill myself to appease the world." Chapter 4639. Looking at the reincarnated six-eared macaque, Xiaohua sneered. The Dipankara archaic Buddha had already stated that Ananda had chosen to enter the beast Tao and reincarnate into the demon race to avoid the Mahavairakana exalted Buddha. His intention to betray the Tao was clear. Then Xiaohua said, "Oh? Hidden immortal continent? I thought it was the Thunder Sound Temple's Mahavairakana exalted Buddha. So it's the hidden immortal continent. I'm curious. Even I don't have the right to kill you, yet that person has the right to do so. Who is that person?" Rest assured, enlightened master. That person has no cultivation and is just immortal. Enlightened master will know when you see him. The six-eared macaque said calmly. He knew the situation he was in and didn't dare to say anything to provoke Xiaohua. He only looked at Xiaohua and stated, "What if I don't go?" Xiaohua asked. "Enlightened master, you can choose not to go. No one in this world would dare to force you to go." The six-eared macaque replied, "However, since enlightened master is talking about karma, let me settle it." Looking at the six-eared macaque's calmness in his eyes, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. "All right." Xiaohua nodded and looked at the Thunderbolt Immortal, Wenchu, and the Heavenly Being. He threw the Kunlun mirror to the Heavenly Being and instructed, "Fellow Taoists, please guard this place. No one is allowed to leave. I'll be back soon." The Thunderbolt Immortal's voice was like thunder. He looked at the Go-Chin Immortal Emperor. The Heavenly Being took the Kunlun mirror and looked at everyone with bright eyes. "Dragon Master Xiao, please go. This sage will also stay here and won't leave." The golden-winged great rock looked at Feng Wu and quickly expressed his stance. The Go-Chin Immortal Emperor sneered. He flipped his right hand and took out the clear heavenly mirror. He said, "The hidden immortal continent is my territory. Who can stop me from going anywhere I want?" Old Man Gao-Chin, the Grand Mist Ancestor, immediately shouted, "Don't be arrogant. You dare to disobey Taoist Xiao?" Initially, the Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha was about to leave with the myriad Buddhas. Upon hearing Xiaohua's words, he couldn't help but frown. However, after hearing the Go-Chin Immortal Emperor and the Primordial Mist Ancestor's words, his frown loosened. He said, "Your Majesty, the Sutra Praying to Extreme Bliss is a grand event held by my Immortal Palace and the Thunder Monastery. Although it's completed today, This old monk still has some insights to share with your majesty. If your majesty doesn't mind, can you please descend from the clouds and discuss with this old monk? Forget it. The Gochin Immortal Emperor pondered for a moment and nodded. Dipankara Archaic Buddha, I'll stay behind to listen to you. This time, both our sects have exhausted so much effort only to end up benefiting others. How sad. Your Majesty's words are too serious. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha smiled and said, it doesn't matter if it's a wedding dress or not. As long as the Buddha's light falls upon the concealed immortal, and the Confucian's words become blissful, our goal has been achieved. Seeing that everything was settled, Xiaohua waved his hand and took the six-eared macaque away. Then he asked, where are we going? The six-eared macaque pointed at the shore of the East Sea. Without saying anything, Xiaohua's figure flickered, and he transformed into a bolt of lightning, shooting into the distance. Seeing that Xiaohua had left, the primordial chaos ancestor, Taoist rider Crane, and child of the dark night looked at each other. Then they flew toward the thunderbolt hermit and cupped their hands, saying, I'm the primordial chaos ancestor. Greetings, Taoist thunderbolt. The Gochin Immortal Emperor and the Dipankara Archaic Buddha descended and stopped above the river tide temple. The Manjushri Bodhisattva turned around and looked at the Buddhas and heavenly kings before sitting down cross-legged. The golden-winged great rock and Phoenix Wu smiled and landed in front of Wenchu. Then he cupped his hands and said, long time no see. Immortal Wenchu de Jianghu, on the other hand, had a troubled look on his face. In front of Chuanzong, he complained, Master, have you ever considered letting Zhen Feng participate in this Western Paradise scripture retrieval? I'm used to riding him, and I really don't want to let him go. Moreover, we're heading to the West Sea. If you keep Zhen Feng, wouldn't it be more convenient to ride the 8 divisions heavenly dragon's body in the West Sea? Before Chuanzong could say anything, Zhen Feng's figure flickered, and he flew to the side of the golden-winged great rock. He had already made up his mind. He was the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace's 10th prince. Today, he had already become an 8 divisions heavenly dragon. Next time, he would never be fooled by the Western Paradise scripture retrieval, even if he was given a Buddhist seat. After all, Zhenjie was too heavy, and the way he put it, was too smelly. Everyone was waiting for Xiaohua's return in the Longevity Town. However, no one expected that in just a few moments, a thunderous rumble could be heard. Rumble. In the southwest, in the direction of the East Sea's shore, a thunderous rumble could be heard. Thousands of flames appeared in the sky within 1,000 miles, burning away the darkness before dawn. Oh, what's going on? Seeing that it was the direction Xiaohua and the six-eared macaque were heading, everyone was shocked. How could they not know what had happened? Perfected cultivator Qingyun, quickly go and take a look. Immortal Emperor Gaochen flew up first and shouted, what's going on? Pretentious. Celestial being was not used to Immortal Emperor Gaochen's behavior. He snorted and said, it's only 1,000 miles. You'll know if you use the clear eyes technique. However, before Celestial being could finish, he shouted, what? What formation is blocking the southwest of the Longevity Town? These words were transmitted by Xiaohua's mind. When Chu's expression also changed, and he hurriedly covered it up. That's right, fellow Immortal Xiao sent a message. He's blocked by a mysterious formation in the southwest of the Longevity Town. He can't leave from there. Celestial being, use the Kunlun mirror to subdue Chunzong and then go to assist Xiao Xian. Thunderbolt Immortal, you stay here and don't fall for the trick of luring the tiger away from the mountain. Rock Sage and Phoenix Sage, please go to the north of Longevity Town to investigate. After saying that, when Chu said to Immortal Emperor Gaochen, Your Majesty, stay here as well. I'll go with Sun Jian to the east. Alright, thank you, Wen Chu Palace Master. When Immortal Emperor Gaochen saw Wen Chu's arrangement, he knew that Xiaohua was guarding against him. He didn't say anything and just followed Wen Chu's instructions. Then, Wen Chu smiled at the Dipankara Archaic Buddha and said, If it's possible, World Lord, you can stay here as well. How about inviting the Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva to the west of the Longevity Town to investigate? Amitba. That's how it should be. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha didn't say anything else. He ordered the Manjushri Bodhisattva to bring some arhats and other Buddhas over. As for the three of you, you can stay here as well. Wen Chu looked at the primordial chaos ancestor and the others and said with a fake smile, "Thank you, fellow Taoists." The primordial chaos ancestor knew how important this matter was. He didn't dare to say anything that might cause a misunderstanding. He cupped his hands and descended, sitting cross-legged with Taoist rider Crane and the Dark Night Child on the Jianghu Ridge. After the assignment was done, Wen Chu brought Sun Jian and the other immortal generals and flew towards the east. Xiaohua took the six-eared macaque with him and flew southwest. He did not know who the six-eared macaque was talking about, but he knew that since the karmic hands were moving, he should go with the six-eared macaque and find out who this mysterious person was. Therefore, Xiaohua didn't say anything to the six-eared macaque. He only focused on flying. 1,000 miles passed in a blink of an eye. The surrounding sky started to darken, and the starry sky started to hide. Xiaohua knew that this was the darkness before dawn. It was also at this moment that Xiaohua suddenly felt some indescribable fluctuations in space. These fluctuations were like cotton wool that wrapped around Xiaohua's body in an instant. After several breaths of time, Xiaohua felt as if the space around him was filled with invisible obstacles. His flying speed suddenly decreased, as if he had fallen into a quagmire. What's going on? Xiaohua was taken aback, but he didn't stop moving. He released his divine sense, and with a flicker, he teleported into the distance. Unfortunately, in the blink of an eye, Xiaohua's figure appeared again. He couldn't stay in the void for long, so he couldn't use his teleportation technique. Moreover, the strange thing was that when he released his divine sense, there were no obstacles within 10,000 miles. However, when he released his divine sense, it was almost the same. It was as if, when his divine sense fell into the Sumera restriction, it seemed that his divine sense swept far away, but in reality, it was very close. The primordial chaos ancestor's ambush. This thought flashed through Xiaohua's mind, but after a moment, he laughed involuntarily. Even if the primordial chaos ancestor had obtained an opportunity in the Star Moon Palace, and his cultivation had reached the late Great Ascension stage, if he wanted to face the experts of the 3 continents, he still couldn't do it. He couldn't do such an unwise thing. Break. Xiaohua was too lazy to think about it. He grabbed the 6-eared macaque, imprisoned it, and threw it into the Shenhua continent. Then he waved his hands, and a thunderous hand appeared, grabbing at the invisible restriction. The sound of thunder was loud, and the void within a few miles was torn apart. The feeling of being entangled by the fluctuations was still there. Damn it! Xiaohua was truly enraged. He rubbed his hands again, and thousands of thick crystal lights fell into the void. Boom boom boom. Kachacha. In the sky several li away, thunderstorms surged and surged like a tide, covering the sky and covering the earth as they fell. However, the thunderbolts were like pearls cast into darkness, and it didn't cause any ripples. Everything around him was like an illusion. Open! Xiaohua hurriedly retreated. When the fluctuations that entangled him disappeared, Xiaohua slapped his forehead and opened his delirium breaker Dharma eye. When he saw everything in front of him, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. In the delirium breaker Dharma eye, layers of fist-sized flames filled the entire space like clouds. These flames were light red, and the delirium breaker Dharma eye could see them clearly. Xiaohua understood that what the delirium breaker Dharma eye saw was condensed from the essence of vitality. These layers of flames must be an extremely powerful restriction formation. Who is it? Xiaohua was shocked. Who dares to set up such a formation when the supremes of the various sects are gathered at the Longevity Town? Chapter 4640. Fellow Taoists. Xiaohua immediately sent a sound transmission in his heart. The southwest direction of Longevity Town is blocked by a forbidden array. I can't go out. Quickly, fellow Taoists Celestial, come and help Fellow Taoists, you all go and take a look. After sending the sound transmission, Xiaohua opened his illusion breaker eye again and activated his flying technique to fly into the flaming clouds. Sure enough, when Xiaohua's figure fell into the flaming clouds, those clouds were like cotton wool, They could be scattered but they would not shatter. Xiaohua's flying figure was entangled by the scattered clouds, and when more clouds were entangled around Xiaohua's body, Xiaohua once again felt that it was difficult to move. Xiaohua sneered and closed his illusion breaker eye. What he saw with his naked eye was still a pitch-black night sky. Not long after, the Celestial flew over with the Kunlun mirror and shouted, "Fellow Taoist, don't worry, I'll help you." With that, the Celestial was about to take out the white bones. "Don't be anxious." Xiaohua raised his hand to stop the Celestial and said, "I's lightning hand can't even tear apart this inexplicable forbidden array. I'm afraid that your Celestial's white bones won't be enough." That's true." The Celestial being smiled foolishly and nodded. "That's all I have. You know all about it. Just tell me what you want me to do." How's your refining of the 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper?" Xiaohua narrowed his eyes, raised his hand to signal the Celestial to give him the Kunlun mirror, and then asked. The Celestial gave the Kunlun mirror to Xiaohua and said, "The 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper is the Celestial race's heaven artifact. Although I have the method to repair and refine it, it has only been a few decades and can't be fully completed. However, even if the 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper is completely repaired, I'm afraid it's useless to break this restriction." Xiaohua took the Kunlun mirror and first stored Chunzong into the Shenhua continent. This time, he was relieved and nodded. "Fellow Taoist is right. The 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper is used for fighting. If it's used for breaking restrictions, it's useless." Seeing that Xiaohua was neither anxious nor slow, the Celestial understood and said with a smile, "So fellow Taoist already has a method to break the restriction. You called me over just because you're worried." "Indeed." Xiaohua nodded and said, "I have 2 ways to break the seal, but I don't know which one is useful." "Fellow Taoist, hurry up and break the seal." The Celestial said with a smile. "I'm rather curious. Who would dare to besiege Longevity Town at this time? There are supreme beings from the Immortal Palace, Thunder Temple, Great Holy Hall, and Fortune Gate here. Who else could it be?" Xiaohua sneered. At this moment, even if he used his heel to think, he knew who was behind this. Who on this hidden immortal continent has such strength? No way. Xiaohua thought in his heart, and did not hide it from Heaven Man immediately exclaimed, "It's actually the 4 great families? Aren't they setting up a formation at Dawn and Dusk Cliff to fight against my Fortune Gate? How could they have set up such a large restrictive formation in the Longevity Town? Right now, we can't be sure if it's one of the 4 great families." At this time, Xiaohua didn't seem to be particularly anxious to break the array. Instead, he asked with a smile, "However, I have 70% confidence. Fellow Celestial, do you still remember the 2 doubts I had in the Fortune Dao Palace?" Heaven Man slapped his own forehead and laughed. "I understand now. Fellow Taoist, you suspected that the 4 great families didn't use their full strength that day. So they were just deliberately mystifying things at Dawn and Dusk Cliff to attract our attention and also the Immortal Palace's attention. They made that old man Gaochen think that the 4 great families were here to steal Wen Chu's 5 Qi unification art, but in reality, their target was the Longevity Town. Their goal was Immortal Emperor Gaochen." Xiaohua nodded. "If I'm not mistaken, the 4 great families have been setting up this Longevity Town for many years. It might even have started after the Sutra Seeking Extreme Bliss began. They knew that when the Sutra Seeking Extreme Bliss ended, Immortal Emperor Gaochen would definitely leave the Immortal Palace and come to the Longevity Town. They set up a formation here to take Immortal Emperor Gaochen's life or take his position. In order to not arouse Immortal Emperor Gaochen's suspicion, they had placed an army of 900,000 at Chaomuya. Now, Immortal Emperor Gaochen had fallen for their trap and easily left the palace to come to hidden Immortal Continent. Are just fish in the moat caught in a fire at the city gates. Damn it, the 4 great families are too cunning." Heaven Man was speechless. At this time, Wen Chu's voice sounded in their minds. "That is indeed the case. There's also a strange wave coming from the east of Longevity Town, filling up the space. I can see it with my divine sense and clear eyes technique, but I can't pass through. As for what the wave looks like, I can't see it clearly. Wen Chu then smiled and said, Fellow Immortal Xiao, do you still want to break the restriction now? What's wrong with me? Break what restriction now? Xiao Hua smiled. This is the time to threaten Gaochen old man. If we don't seize this opportunity, how will we know where the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal is? As for that six-eared macaque, it doesn't matter when we kill him. Plus, I didn't promise him to find that mysterious person. If I am not happy, I will just kill him. Xiao Hua's body flashed, and he brought the Heaven Man to where Wen Chu was. At this time, the eastern sky was filled with immortal generals. These immortal generals used their own divine abilities, wanting to rush out. Unfortunately, they could only fly out a few miles before they were blocked by the space. It was difficult for them to take another step. Seeing Xiao Hua come over, Sun Jian hurried forward to greet him. Xiao Hua nodded and opened his delusion breaker Dharma eye. He saw that in the horizon, there were golden lotuses shining with dazzling golden light. They were like layers of clouds that covered the entire heaven and earth. All of the immortal generals were trapped in these golden lotus clouds. Xiao Hua laughed coldly and turned to fly to the north. Sun Jian hurriedly called out, Master Xiao Lei, did you find anything? Xiao Hua asked curiously, Don't you have the Void Breaker eyes? Can't you see it? Junior's Void Breaker eyes are most useful for breaking the seal of the void. Junior tried to open it just now, but the void is blocked. Junior's Void Breaker eyes can't open it. Sun Jian answered honestly. When Xiao Hua heard that, he thought of something. His expression changed slightly, and he immediately took out the Kunlun mirror. As expected, the Kunlun mirror's light beam fell into the void, and the void was empty. There was no spatial passage that he expected to be born. Damn it! Xiao Hua cursed and hurriedly urged his soul consciousness. He wanted to see the Black Wind Ridge's teleportation formation, which was not too far from here. Unfortunately, he still couldn't discover the Black Wind Ridge even though he had released his soul awareness more than 10,000 miles away. He couldn't discover the teleportation formation either. Xiao Hua knew that Taoist witches going south, going north was probably going to lose its effect in this forbidden formation. Then, he thought for a moment and asked, General Sun, who do you think this mysterious formation is? Sun Jian answered without hesitation. If it's not the four great families, then it's the 100 schools of thought. Even if it's the 100 schools of thought, it's still instigated by the four great families. And this old man thinks so too. Xiao Hua nodded. You should hurry and report to old man Gaochen. Tell him to wash his neck clean and wait. Sun Jian's expression changed, but he still respectfully said, Junior understands. Junior will go report to him right now. Seeing Sun Jian and Tai Bai Jinxing leave in a hurry, Xiao Hua didn't delay and went to the north of Longevity Town. In the northern sky, Saint Peng and Saint Phoenix, the two great saints of the demon race, saw Xiao Hua appear. Saint Peng came to greet him. Xiao Hua helped Sage Peng up and asked, Sage Peng, did you find anything strange? Of course. The Golden Rock sneered. This is the work of those old bald donkeys from the Thunder Temple. No wonder Mahavairakana didn't come, he set up this formation outside. Ah? Thunder Temple? Mahavairakana? Xiao Hua was a little confused and asked, Why does Sage Peng say that? This void is filled with the light of relics. No matter how I use my flying technique, I can't break through this light. The Golden Rock pointed to the distant sky and said, Phoenix Wu looked at Xiao Hua and said, Sage Peng and this sage have already tried, but we didn't succeed. Fellow Taoist's lightning escape technique also can't succeed. Xiao Hua turned pale with fright. He asked, Is Phoenix Sage sure? After all, Xiao Hua's lightning escape technique had once been close to breaking through the limit of time law in Star Moon Palace. How could it not break through this restriction? Previously, he and the Celestial had patted their chests with confidence. One was the Kunlun mirror, and the other was naturally this lightning escape technique. Basically, I'm sure. Phoenix Wu nodded. If fellow Taoist doesn't believe me, you can try. Xiao Hua naturally wouldn't try now. He only opened his delusion breaker eyes. Sure enough, as the Golden Rock said, His eyes were filled with the light of relics. There were no other colors. Hiss. Xiaohua pinched his chin and thought to himself, could this really be the work of the Thunder Sound Temple? Why do they want to use this restriction formation? Other than the Immortal Palace and the Great Sage Hall, there's only my Fortune Gate and the so-called Sky-Bearing Palace. Could it be? They want to destroy my Taoism? Thinking of this, Xiaohua's face turned cold. He instantly teleported to the western sky. At this time, the east wind broke through the dawn. The warm sunlight pierced through the darkness, and the western sky was still a little white. When Xiaohua saw Nanwu Wisdom Manjushri leading a group of guardian heavenly kings, arhats, and vajras to break through the restriction formation, Xiaohua's suspicion disappeared. If the Buddhism sect had laid down a restriction formation, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha and Nanwu Wisdom Manjushri would definitely be the first to leave the formation. Why would they stay here as hostages for no reason? Of course, this didn't eliminate the possibility that the Buddhism sect was trying to hide something. Greetings, senior apprentice brother. Nanwu Wisdom Manjushri hurriedly greeted Xiaohua. You're too polite, Bodhisattva. Xiaohua hurriedly helped Manjushri up and said, it's better to call me Sandalwood, donate it, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 46-41. However, Nanwu Wisdom Manjushri shook his head and said, since senior brother has attained the fruit of Nanwu Merciful Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, you are a Bodhisattva of Lei Temple. Perhaps you don't want to rebuild your Buddha body in Lei Temple, but you are still my senior brother. Xiaohua waved his hand and said helplessly, do whatever you want. I won't go to Lei Temple. Anything will do. Go to Lei Temple? Manjushri Bodhisattva was stunned for a moment. Then he smiled and said, senior brother, you misunderstood me. That is to listen respectfully in front of Mahavairakana World Venerable. It is a blessing that hundreds of millions of bodhisattvas can't get. Xiaohua did not know whether to laugh or cry. He finally understood why he suddenly attained the fruit of Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. When he collected the water from Liao River in Longevity Town, he almost attained the fruit. The virtues he obtained were not only the power of faith from the people in Longevity Town, but also the virtues of spreading good seeds across Xiaoyu continent. Later on, Buddha Subhuti appeared out of nowhere. Buddha Subhuti was Xiaohua's Buddhist avatar. Therefore, all the merits fell on Buddha Subhuti. When Xiaohua entered the ruins by mistake and obtained Nanwu Maitreya's relics and virtues, he even sacrificed himself for the people in the ruins. His virtues had long surpassed the fruit of Bodhisattva. When Xiaohua and Buddha Bodhi were teleported back to Great Snow Mountain, Jianghu cut off her long-cherished wish and attained the fruit of Buddha Bodhi. At this time, Buddha Bodhi was still Xiaohua, but Nanwu Maitreya Buddha was different from Xiaohua. When Wenchu became a human being, Demon Lord became a demon, and Reverend Yun became a dragon, Nanwu Maitreya Buddha had also changed. Xiaohua did not know whether he had become a human being or not, but he knew that Nanwu Maitreya Buddha had returned the virtues that belonged to Xiaohua's original body. Therefore, when he was in Longevity Town, Xiaohua accidentally and inevitably attained the fruit of Nanwu Merciful Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva in front of Liao River, which had not attained the fruit of Buddha over 400 years ago. Of course, the fruit of Buddha was a touch of light on the golden body of Bodhisattva, but on Xiaohua's body, it was just some light on the Godhead. Let's talk about this later. Xiaohua looked at the serious Manjushri Bodhisattva and replied, previously because of Zhenkong's matter, Xiao. Brother Zhao's tone was a bit unkind. I hope junior brother can understand. Hearing Xiaohua calling himself brother and calling himself junior brother, Manjushri was overjoyed. He hurriedly put his palms together and said, Amitabha, this is the fault of Lei Temple. When I saw Ananda's incarnation appear, I was also shocked and didn't know what to do. As for the truth and falsehood that this little monk spoke of back then, it was actually the truth. It's just that Zhenkong didn't quite understand. After that, Ananda was ruthless. The revered one was also implicated in this matter. It's good that senior martial brother didn't go to the Lei Temple. Speaking of Mahavairakana revered Buddha, Xiaohua sneered, Namo Maitreya Buddha betrayed Lei Temple, is it related to this matter? Manjushri hesitated and said in a low voice, "This matter is related to the three Buddhas. I dare not say anything. Now, senior brother is also a bodhisattva. Sometimes, you have to think for Lane Temple. What if I think for small exquisite temple?" Xiaohua said with a faint smile. Manjushri suddenly thought of something. After a while, he said sincerely, "Namo Maitreya Buddha, senior martial brother, Lane Temple and small exquisite temple are one. Senior martial brother can help either one." Also, Xiaohua's heart moved. He asked again, "What's the matter with Ananda?" Dipankara Archaic Buddha didn't say too much. "Senior martial brother, don't make things difficult for this little monk." Manjushri said with a bitter face, "This is the matter of the Buddhas. How would this little monk know? The most important thing now is to see how to break the restriction. This restriction is really mysterious. If my heaven's foot connection can't work, the other disciples can't either. We have to see senior martial brother's method." Seeing Manjushri like this, Xiaohua didn't force him. He stood still in the air and activated his illusion-breaking Dharma Eye. However, in his Dharma Eye, the western horizon was covered by a layer of white clouds. The clouds covered the entire sky, and the end couldn't be seen. What kind of formation is this? Xiaohua thought and looked at the sky. After all, the places where different clouds touched were usually the weak points of the formation. If he wanted to break the restriction, he could only start from there. Unfortunately, Xiaohua was destined to be disappointed. This was because the area where the white clouds came into contact with the relic's scattered light was also a layer of clouds. The layers of clouds were still overlapping each other without any gaps, and there was no flaw to be seen. This is troublesome. Xiaohua stood in the air with a worried expression on his face. He still wanted to use his own divine ability to threaten Immortal Emperor Gochen, but seeing that this grand formation was so tight that not even the slightest gap could be found, and even he was trapped here, how could he threaten Immortal Emperor Gochen? Senior martial brother. Seeing that Xiaohua didn't speak, Manjushri asked tentatively, "This restriction. Junior martial brother, you should go and ask the Dipankara Archaic Buddha." Xiaohua waved his hand angrily. "Senior martial brother's talent is shallow. I have just touched the threshold of the Thundersound Temple, and I have never seen such a mysterious restriction before." Manjushri was helpless and could only order the Buddhas to guard the west side while he flew back to the River Tide Temple. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and shook the Kunlun mirror, mobilizing 40,000 Fortune Gate disciples. 20,000 guarded the north side of the Longevity Town, and 20,000 guarded the south side of the Longevity Town to prevent any changes to the mysterious formation. Then, Xiaohua turned to look at Wen Chu and the Heavenly Man, and asked in a low voice, "I've seen it again. What do you think?" "It's difficult." Wen Chu shook his head, and the Heavenly Man shrugged, expressing his helplessness. However, just as Xiaohua was about to speak, Wen Chu's eyes suddenly lit up, and he said with a smile, "This old man remembers two of your abilities. It should be useful." Since Wen Chu thought of it, Xiaohua naturally thought of it too. He smiled bitterly and said, "One is to forcefully activate the lightning escape art. Although Feng Wu has already tried it, he didn't go to the Star Moon Palace, so he doesn't know the profoundness of the lightning escape art. However, don't forget, when the lightning escape art is pushed to the extreme, the last bit of the clear feather pill's medicinal efficacy will be activated. I might ascend to the heavens." "Ha, so fellow Taoist wants to ascend? That's a good idea. Under the laws of heaven and earth, all restrictive arrays will lose their effectiveness. We can naturally leave." The Heavenly Man laughed. "Currently, I don't want to ascend to the heavens." Xiaohua rubbed his nose and replied, "Moreover, why would I do these things that harm myself for no reason and let Old Man Gaochen and Old Man Hongmeng benefit for nothing? Then we can only rely on." As he spoke, Wen Chu looked at Xiaohua's left hand. "That's even more unacceptable." Xiaohua shook his head without hesitation. "Although the Taoist sect has a rift with the Confucian sect and the Buddhist sect, we are still humans. This is a righteous cause. Once the devil blade appears, or the demon venerable murder appears, we will become demons. The Confucian sect is the best at spreading rumors. All our previous efforts will turn into water, and we can only benefit old man Hongmeng. Wen Chu pondered for a moment and nodded. If that's the case, we can only wait and see. This formation is really strange. Our divine abilities are not affected by the formation at all. Even our divine sense and eye-clearing techniques are not hindered. However, it only prevents us from leaving. This means... Xiao Huan narrowed his eyes and looked at the floating clouds in the sky. He said, "The person who set up the formation has absolute confidence in trapping us to death, and they haven't revealed their powerful methods yet." As Xiao Hua spoke, he was unwilling to give up. He rushed into the sky and entered the ground. He looked around again, but he still didn't find anything. Only then did he bring Wen Chu, the heavenly man, and the golden-winged great Peng, Feng Wu, and the others back to the River Tide Temple. Originally, there were many monks in the River Tide Temple. In order to welcome Chuanzong's group and hold a grand ceremony to end the sutra seeking of nirvana, these monks had gathered around the temple. After Xiao Hua and the primordial chaos ancestor came uninvited, these monks received the abbot's orders and gradually retreated. Now, seeing the strange situation around the Longevity Town, these monks came out from the River Tide Temple and went to various parts of the Longevity Town. They were either comforting the citizens or looking for flaws in the formation. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha originally invited Immortal Emperor Gaochen to the River Tide Temple for a chat. However, how could Immortal Emperor Gaochen step foot into a Buddhist temple? He landed on top of the River Tide Temple, and golden radiances appeared out of nowhere, forming the shape of a golden throne. Immortal Emperor Gaochen sat on top of the clouds. Naturally, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha sat on top of the 9 grades lotus throne, facing Immortal Emperor Gaochen. Now that the situation had changed, the two of them flew up and sat back down when they saw their disciples flying out. They exchanged a glance, then turned to look at the Jianghu Ridge. On the ridge, the sky-bearing palace's Grand Mist ancestor, Taoist rider Crane, and Inyezi were sitting cross-legged. The three of them seemed to be meditating and turned a blind eye to the two of them. The Go-Chin Immortal Emperor and the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord glanced at the three before retracting their gazes. They knew very well that the so-called sky-bearing hall was nothing but a nobody. Only the primordial mist ancestor was worthy of their attention. The primordial chaos ancestor and the other two came here with great risk. The primordial chaos ancestor was betting that Xiao Hua didn't know about Prince Lan's matter and that Xiao Hua wouldn't lay his hands on Taoism's cultivators. That was why he only came out after Xiao Hua appeared. They wanted to take advantage of Xiao Hua's Fortune Gate's confrontation with the Immortal Palace, Thunder Monastery, and Great Sage Hall to show off their prowess. This kind of trickery was different from Xiao Hua's method of advancing step by step. It was merely a method and not strength. Therefore, the two of them were certain that the strange changes around the Longevity Town were not the Grand Mist ancestors doing. Give it a recommendation vote, bookmark it, tip it, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 46-42. Not long after, Sun Jian and Tai Bai Jinxing returned. They didn't hide anything and told the Dipankara Archaic Buddha about the Longevity Town situation, as well as the myriad golden lotus blossoms that Xiao Hua saw with his delirium dharma eye. Hearing that Xiao Hua could see through the void, the Grand Mist ancestor's body trembled slightly, and he couldn't help opening his eyes. Taoist rider Crane and Inyezi also opened their eyes. The three of them exchanged a glance, and the complicated expression in their eyes became even more complicated. Manjushri Bodhisattva came back and told him about the situation in the west. Immortal Emperor Gaochen seemed to have thought of something and was surprised to hear that there were only white clouds in the west. The Thunderbolt Immortal wasn't with Hongmeng ancestor and the others. Instead, he was sitting cross-legged on the Liao River opposite the Jianghu Ridge. His gaze was sharp as lightning as he looked at the people on the Jianghu Ridge. After listening to Sun Jian and Manjushri's words, he subconsciously looked down at the Liao River below him. He waved his hand and a streak of lightning turned into a fish and swam down the river. Unfortunately, it was only a short moment before the lightning was obstructed in the distance and couldn't float away in the slightest. Looking at the river water again, although it was still flowing slowly, the torrential momentum was long gone. Whether it was the river water or the fish, when they reached the place where the lightning was obstructed, they all stopped and slowly flowed back. Damn it, natural elemental energy. Seeing how the water flow was acting, Reverend Thunderbolt immediately thought of the natural elemental energy. He hastily released his divine sense to check the surroundings. Thankfully, the natural elemental energy within a radius of 500 li was still abundant. It was not obstructed by the restrictive array. When Thunderbolt Sage was inspecting, Xiao Hua and the rest had already returned. He looked at Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the rest before sitting cross-legged in the sky to the south of the tidal river temple. Celestial Being and Wen Chu naturally sat beside him. The golden-winged rock and Feng Wu sat on the north side. The golden-winged great rock's gaze was like lightning. He looked at everyone and explained the situation of the Saraira lights in the north. Then, he stared at the Dipankara Archic Buddha and coldly said, "Old man Dipankara, what else do you have to say? Apart from your Buddhist sect's Buddhist artifacts, which other item has Saraira light? How could it be so powerful? You must have fallen into the trap of the Mahavairocana revered Buddha, right?" Amitabha. The Dipankara Archic Buddha pressed his palms together and said, "How can the likes of you understand the intentions of the World Lord? Although the world is big, it can't compare to even 1% of the Venerable One's mercy." Master Shaolei. Immortal Emperor Gochen calmly asked, "Where is the southwest of Longevity Town?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen lowered his head again after hearing Xiao Hua's explanation of the southern flaming clouds and his failure. The Grand Mist Ancestor pondered for a moment, then said, "I have some doubts after hearing Dao Master Zhao's words, but I don't know if they are true or false. I hope Dao Master Xiao can correct me." "Please speak, fellow Taoist Primordial Chaos." Hearing the Grand Mist Ancestor's rare humility, Xiao Hua was a little surprised. He looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor from head to toe and chuckled. The Grand Mist Ancestor coughed and said, "First, I feel that this is a premeditated ambush, and it has been planned for a long time." Nonsense. The Lightning Taoist did not give face to the Grand Mist Ancestor and said coldly, "Everyone knows this. Do I need you to tell me that?" "Hee, fellow Taoist Thunder, don't worry." The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled faintly and said, "What I mean is, since this is something that has been planned for a long time, then this ambush has a purpose. This purpose is definitely the few forces that will participate in the sutras seeking extreme bliss. My sky-bearing palace and fortune gate. Coming to Longevity Town is definitely not something they would expect. Their target should be the Great Sage Hall, Immortal Palace, or Lightning Tune Temple." The Lightning Taoist snorted and said, "Is there even a need to say this?" The Grand Mist Ancestor ignored the Lightning Taoist and said, "How many forces on the 3 continents can contend against the Great Sage Hall, Immortal Palace, and Lightning Tune Temple? Dragon Island? Fortune Gate? Sky-bearing Palace?" The Lightning Taoist was about to scold the Grand Mist Ancestor for being shameless, but Xiao Hua stopped him in his heart. The Grand Mist Ancestor continued, "Since Dao Master Xiao and I are here, the Fortune Gate and Sky-bearing Palace should be eliminated. There is only the Dragon Island." "Damn it!" Zhen Feng shouted angrily from afar. "Grand Mist Ancestor, are you trying to slander us because our dragon race isn't here? I am the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace's 10th Prince Now, I am the 8th Division Heavenly Dragon. If you continue to spout nonsense, don't blame me for being impolite. If it's the Dragon Island, then who is the Dragon Island's target? How could the Grand Mist Ancestor care about Zhen Feng?" He continued to analyze, "Then it can only be the Great Sage Hall. Of course, if the other Great Sages of the Great Sage Hall are dissatisfied with the Great Sage Peng and Great Sage Hall, they will probably take action. However, I feel that if they want to deal with the Great Sage Hall, they should not target the Longevity Hall, but the road from the Great Sage Hall to the Longevity Town. There is no need for the Dragon Island to involve the Immortal Palace and Lightning Tune Temple. Then what does fellow Grand Mist Ancestor mean? After talking for so long, why can't I hear anything?" Xiao Hua asked. "I am only reminding you that there is a purpose to this ambush. Other than the 3 continents' superpowers, what else is there? Are there other hidden forces?" The Grand Mist Ancestor hinted. Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat as he seemed to understand the Grand Mist Ancestor's meaning. The corner of his mouth curled up into a cold sneer as he asked in a low voice, "Grand Mist Ancestor, can you say it clearly?" Xingyue. The Grand Mist Ancestor looked provocatively at Xiao Hua as he said each word clearly. "You deserve to die." Xiao Hua's heart was burning with anger. Thinking about how Su Ji had treated him well in the Star Moon Palace, then thinking about how Su Ji had blocked him, not allowing him to make things difficult for the Grand Mist Ancestor, then thinking about what Su Ji had not said. What he had done for the Grand Mist Ancestor in the past. Xiao Hua jumped up from the cloud and said loudly, "Since Taoist Grand Mist has said this, then this Xiao has no choice but to say it. Xingyue has belonged to my fortune gate ever since the Xingyue Palace appeared. Whoever dares to have any ideas about Xingyue, don't blame my fortune gate for being impolite." Ah? Everyone was stunned, and the Grand Mist Ancestor was even more shocked. He hurriedly said, "Io, fellow Taoist Xiao, congratulations, congratulations, this seat has been rude. This seat was just discussing the matter as it is, but I didn't expect that the flood would rush to the Dragon King's temple, and we don't recognize each other anymore. It seems like this seat's deduction was wrong, ah?" At this point, the Grand Mist Ancestor asked curiously, "That's right, fellow Taoist Xiao, this seat is a little presumptuous to ask, where is the original owner of Xingyue?" Xiao Hua replied snappily, "Fellow Taoist need not worry about that. Their whereabouts have nothing to do with you." That's good, that's good." Although Xiao Hua did not answer directly, the Grand Mist Ancestor seemed to be relieved and smiled exceptionally brightly. "Damn it, do you have anything else to say?" The celestial being was also annoyed by the Grand Mist Ancestor's words and shouted loudly. Of course, the Grand Mist Ancestor's purpose was naturally to find out the whereabouts of Fairy Xingyue and Su Ji. Secondly, it was the ownership of the star-plucking tower. In order to avoid suspicion, how could he not have other methods? He agreed and said, "Since Xingyue is not the owner, then it should be the other hidden forces in the 3 continents. Among these forces, the most famous one is also the most likely." There is no need for this seat to say more. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen must know. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen snorted coldly and did not say anything else. The Grand Mist Ancestor continued, "Other than some clues from the purpose, there are also some clues from the method used to set up the formation. This seat has not seen this formation before, but from the strange phenomenon that Taoist Xiao saw with my Tao Gate's divine ability, this formation should be divided into 4 different great formations according to the 4 directions of heaven and earth. Each great formation should have an array disk or array flag. In this world, to be able to set up 4 great formations of the same power at the same time. I'm afraid that only the 4 great clans of the hidden immortal continent can do so." Didn't the 4 great clans just get beaten to a pulp by the Fortune Gate at the Day and Day Cliff? The golden-winged Great Peng frowned and said, "How could they have the strength to set up formations here?" Xiao Hua smiled bitterly and said, "You may not know, Sage Peng, but the 4 great clans gathered 900,000 disciples to confront my Fortune Gate at the Day and Day Cliff. My Fortune Gate killed more than 300,000 of them and captured more than 500,000 of them. It is not good for me to kill these 500,000 disciples, but it is also not good for me to keep them alive. In the end, I simply let them go." Soft-hearted. The golden-winged Great Peng didn't seem to regard Xiao Hua as an outsider. He blamed Xiao Hua and said, "If you had killed all of them back then, how could today's disaster have happened?" Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha, who had been silent all this while, stood up and clasped his palms together. "Namo Great Compassionate Great Guanyin Bodhisattva. Previously, this seat had been brooding over your attainment of karma. From the looks of it now, you truly deserved it. This seat apologizes to you." Amitabha. Xiao Hua could only stand up and clasped his palms together in a familiar manner. "Dipankara archaic Buddha, seat of the world, you are too serious. It doesn't matter if I have attained karma or not, as long as I am merciful in my heart. If I wasn't forced into a corner, I wouldn't even be willing to kill those 300,000 disciples." Xiao Hua's words were naturally directed at the Go-Chin Immortal Emperor. He didn't know if the Dipankara archaic Buddha was aware of this. However, he still said, "We Buddhists emphasize on being merciful. However, we Buddhists still have thunderous methods to subdue devils. For the sake of Buddhism's peace, we have no choice but to stain ourselves with blood." After the Dipankara archaic Buddha sat down, the golden-winged great prince suddenly realized something and shouted, "Oh, Dragon Master Shao!" This sage suddenly realized that you are not only the Dragon Master of the Dragon Island, but also the Thunder Master of the Immortal Palace. Now, you are even the Namo Great Compassionate Great Guanyin Bodhisattva. Oh, you're also good friends with my rock sage. The Star Moon Lord again. Oh my... Aren't you the #1 person of the 3 continents? Don't forget, Thunder Master Shao is also good friends with my Immortal Palace's Literature Palace Lord. The Gochin Immortal Emperor said with a faint tone, "From what I know, when the Namo Maitreya Buddha attained karma, he also witnessed it on the Great Snow Mountain. Thank you for all your support." Chapter 46-43. At this moment, the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord also spoke. Since he's the Namo Great Merciful Vidyalaya Bodhisattva, he must have the world in his heart. I support such a person becoming the #1 expert of the 3 continents. The Mahavairakana World Lord also supports him. My sky-bearing palace also supports him. The primordial chaos ancestor hurriedly yelled. Shao Hua waved his hand. "Everyone, you're wrong. Let's discuss how to break the restriction first. If it's really the setup of the 4 great families, this restriction is no small matter. I've studied the Tao of formations of Taoism in the past." The primordial chaos ancestor smiled. "If you want to break the formation, you must first know what kind of formation it is, what are the formation plates and flags used to set it up, and where is the formation core. Only when you have a clear understanding of the formation can you truly break it." According to Taoist primordial chaos, what kind of formation is this? What are the formation plates used to set it up? And where is the core of the formation? Shao Hua asked with a smile when they talked about the formation. The primordial chaos ancestor felt a little guilty and chuckled. This must be the defensive formation of the Confucian cultivators. That's not something I can know. Damn it. The heavenly being shouted. After listening for so long, you're still spouting nonsense. Sigh. Does your disciple know what kind of nonsense you're spouting every day? Damn it. The primordial chaos ancestor was a little embarrassed. He glanced at the heavenly being and cursed inwardly. There was a moment of silence on the Jianghu temple. Suddenly, a whirling breeze descended from the sky. Everyone looked up and saw that in the blue sky, the sun was high up in the sky. There seemed to be a circle of light that was visible to the naked eye, slowly sliding down. Shao Hua was shocked. He hurriedly used his divine sense to scan the area, but nothing happened. Not even a spatial ripple appeared, let alone any fluctuations. However, this halo of light was like a heavy boulder in everyone's heart. No one knew what this light thread was used for. This kind of mystery was more frightening than any other method. Your Majesty! The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord retracted his gaze and looked at Immortal Emperor Gochin. These 4 defensive formations. Have you seen them before? I haven't seen them before. Immortal Emperor Gochin calmly replied. Moreover, I feel that these 4 formations are not the defensive formations of Confucian cultivators. Shao Hua sneered. If it's not a defensive array, could it be my Tao sect's array? Could it be the Buddhism formation of the Buddhism sect? The golden-winged great rock looked at the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord and probed. The Grand Mist ancestor rubbed his chin thoughtfully. It could also be the demonic beast race's demonic array. Amitba, there's no need to guess anymore. The Dipankara archaic Buddha, the world exalt, said, I don't know what kind of formation this is. However, I seem to have some impression of the scattered Saraira lights mentioned by the Guanyin Bodhisattva. Revered one of the world, please speak. Shao Hua hastily asked. Unfortunately, the Dipankara archaic Buddha did not answer him directly. Instead, he looked at the immortal Emperor Gochin and asked, Did you not notice anything, Your Majesty? Immortal Emperor Gochin smiled. Of course I know what I see. I'm sure you know what you see as well, right? Amitabha. Seeing how the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord refused to speak, he could only say, "Since your majesty doesn't want to say, I'll just have to embarrass myself." According to my Thunder Monastery's records, before the Immortals and Buddhas joined forces to destroy the Tao, 5 flags appeared on the 3 great continents. They were known as the earlier Heaven 5 Elements flags. According to legend, these 5 elements flags were formed from the 5 petals of the chaotic green lotus. They are all supreme-grade early heaven treasures. The Eastern treasured flag is known as the green lotus flag. It can calm one's heart, repel all evils, and be invulnerable to all arts. The Eastern treasured flag emits the scattered Saraira lights. These scattered Saraira lights are similar to my Buddhism sect's scattered Saraira lights, yet there are some differences. I don't know what the differences are, because I've never seen this green lotus flag before. If the Guanyin Bodhisattva didn't mention the scattered Saraira lights, I wouldn't have remembered this story. Success. Hearing the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord mention the 5 elements flags, Xiaohua instantly thought of the mystic origin water control flag he had obtained in the profound water palace. He couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air as he thought. That day in the profound water palace, XN revealed the origin of the mystic origin water control flag. She said that it came from the immortal world and was used to suppress the devil saber murder in the profound water palace. The immortal world she mentioned must be the heavenly court. I've only seen the might of the mystic origin water control flag and don't fully understand it. However, I'm well aware of how powerful the devil saber murder is. That's a devilish saber that even the devil lords of the ruins feared. Yet, it was suppressed by the mystic origin water control flag. If this mystic origin water control flag is one of the 5 elements flags, then the other 4 5 elements flags that form these 4 formations aren't something I can deal with. Even if I summon my devilish saber, I won't be able to do anything. Thinking of this, Xiaohua hurriedly asked, "World Lord, the other 4 5 elements flags. What are their names? What's so powerful about them?" Amitabha. The cultivation of Buddhism isn't about Buddhism formations, but about the heart. If it weren't for the Saraira lights on the green lotus flag, I wouldn't have known about it. Therefore, I don't know about the other 4 5 elements flags. The Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord didn't know if he really didn't know or if he was faking it. He only pushed this question to Immortal Emperor Go-Chen. "I'm afraid I can only ask your majesty about this." Xiaohua snorted and looked at Immortal Emperor Go-Chen. Even XN knew about the origin of the mystic origin water control flag. How could Immortal Emperor Go-Chen not know about it? Unfortunately, Immortal Emperor Go-Chen still shook his head. "Why must I know if the earlier Heaven 5 Elements flags don't belong to my immortal palace?" "What? Your majesty doesn't know about it if it doesn't belong to the immortal palace?" Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and asked calmly. "Oh, if that's the case," this sage finally remembered. The golden-winged great rock suddenly cried out. The Great Sage Hall has records of something called the Khanate Pentagonal Formation. This formation is neither a Dharma formation nor a demonic formation, much less an imperial formation or a Buddhist formation. The pentagonal formation is set up by 5 Khanate flags. These 5 flags possess boundless power and are used to protect one's body. All evil will be repelled, and all magic will be impenetrable. Let this sage think. The central flag is called the Yellow Earth Apricot Flag? Yes, it's called the Yellow Earth Apricot Flag. When this Yellow Earth Apricot Flag is activated, nothing can break through it. All evils will be repelled, and no arts will be able to invade it. Yes, it seems to be called the 10,000 Golden Lotuses. It's very similar to what Longsher Shao saw in the east of Longevity Town. What about the others? Shao asked. The golden-winged great rock shrugged and shook his head. This sage can't remember the others. This sage only took a casual glance. But then, the golden-winged great rock looked at Immortal Emperor Go-Chen and said, "Go-Chen, it is said that the earlier Heaven 5 Elements flag was obtained by a Confucian sage. Later on, it was controlled by the human race and eventually lost to the hidden immortal continent. Could it be that you don't know about it?" Immortal Emperor Go-Chen coldly snorted and said, "My Confucian sage has many sages. I don't know who Sage Peng is talking about. Moreover, my immortal palace has never had any records about this. However, if you are talking about the earlier Heaven 5 Elements flag, this emperor doesn't know everything. I only know that the southern flag is called the Floating Flame Flag. This flag confuses yin and yang, reverses the 5 elements, repels all evils, and is impenetrable by all arts. When it is activated, the flames are like clouds and can conceal the 5 elements. The western flag is called the White Cloud Boundary Flag. This flag has a dense and mysterious image that illuminates the heaven and earth, repels all evils, and is impenetrable by all arts. When it is activated, the clouds float and the heaven and earth change colors. As for the northern flag, this emperor doesn't know. Damn it, you are still being secretive even at this time. Xiaohua was very disdainful of Go Chen's character and secretly cursed. However, he wasn't sure if the Mystic Origin Water Control flag was the northern flag, so he couldn't say anything. When Chu frowned and said, "If it is as you all said, then this immortal town is surrounded by the 5 elements grand formation. However, this 5 elements grand formation is missing the northern flag, so it can't be considered complete. We should have a chance." Immortal friend Wen Chu is looking down on this 5 elements grand formation too much. The golden-winged Great Pring shook his head and said, "You should know that this 5 elements grand formation is called the innate 5 elements grand formation. Not to mention the 5 innate 5 elements flags acting as the eye of the formation, no one in the 3 continents can break it. Just the innate 5 elements flag alone is not a match for immortal friend." At this time, when Chu glanced at Xiaohua, Xiaohua had already told him about the Mystic Origin Water Control flag. After hearing this, Wen Chu's expression unconsciously changed. After all, he was very clear about the power of the Devil Saber murder. If that's the case, then this formation without the northern flag should be called the innate 4 elements grand formation. Immortal Emperor Gaochen said, "At this time, I don't need to say anything more. Everyone should know who is scheming against us, right?" "Gaochen!" The golden-winged Great Pring shrieked. "Is there still a need to say it? The innate 4 elements grand formation is spread out in all directions and sealed off the immortal town. Apart from the 4 great clans, who else could it be? However, the one they are scheming against is probably you, right?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen laughed and said, "Is there a difference? Could it be that Sage Peng is not inside the formation? This sage is naturally inside the formation. However, even if we are both inside the formation, we are different, right?" The golden-winged Great Pring replied without hesitation, "The 4 great clans are coveting the immortal palace's throne. This innate 5 elements grand formation is known as the number 1 defensive formation in the world. It is even more powerful than Taoist Zhao's capital star formation. The 4 great clans have trapped you here, so they must have already killed their way to the immortal palace." Damn it! Immortal Emperor Gaochen cursed inwardly when his thoughts were exposed by the golden-winged Great Peng. He then looked at Xiaohua and said, "Master Xiaohua, you should be more vigilant now. Previously, you fought against the 4 great clans at Chaomuya. This time, you are trapped in the immortal town. Who knows, the Nangong family might attack your soaring Dragon Mountain range first." Hearing Immortal Emperor Gaochen mention Chaomuya again, Xiaohua's anger surged. He sneered coldly, "Old man Gaochen, Sage Peng is not afraid of the 4 great clans attacking the Great Holy Hall. Do you think this Xiao is afraid of the Nangong family surrounding my fortune gate? This Xiao will put my words here. If Nangong Tianji dares to go, this Xiao can guarantee that he won't be able to keep his head. As for your majesty, shouldn't you tell this Xiao where the new Heaven's Punishment prison crystal is being kept? Otherwise, this Xiao will make a move before the innate 4 elements grand formation. Gift it, and thank you for all your support." Chapter 46-44. Motherfucker, speak. At this time, the Celestial also shouted arrogantly, "Otherwise, I will pull you down from the throne." The rock chuckled and added, "Gaochen, I saw that you were scheming before, but you're still a lord of a region. You're still broad-minded. That's why I'll accept any invitations you have unless it's something special. But now, It seems that everything you've done doesn't match your status as the Lord of Immortal Palace. Taoist Xiao is a human grand ascension stage, a dragon among men. He's so broad-minded that even I want to befriend him. Why don't you like him? The 9th princess was wrong earlier, but Taoist Xiao gave you enough face in the battle against Chao Muya. If you still don't give him face, then don't blame me for not giving you any face. Hee, how can taking advantage of a burning house be a gentleman's style? Immortal Emperor Gaochen didn't care about the rock's threat and said flatly, Sacred Peng, do you think I'm afraid of these idiots? Moreover, I also believe that Master Xiao Lei's words were just words of anger. He will definitely consider the big picture and help the master of the School of Literature to break the 4 directions formation. Because if something happens to me, then no one will know about it. Xiao Hua looked at Immortal Emperor Go Chen's face that was covered by the light. He also couldn't see Immortal Emperor Go Chen's expression, but Xiao Hua knew that under the light, it was definitely a complacent expression. Immortal Emperor Go Chen was the only person who knew the whereabouts of the Heaven Punishment Prison Crystal. Unless he decided to break off relations with the Immortal Palace and search every inch of the hidden Immortal Continent, he really couldn't casually make a move. Xiao Hua took a deep breath and said coldly, Your Majesty controls the fate of all Confucian cultivators in the world. How can you not have a way to destroy the schemes of the 4 clans? Oh, and where's your golden throne? All Confucian cultivators in the world will bow before the throne. Your Majesty, you should act quickly. If I could bring the throne down from Immortal Palace, would Dongfang Qianghao and the others still dare to set up this formation in Immortal Town? Immortal Emperor Gaochen sneered. They only dare to use their brains when I leave Immortal Palace. His Majesty doesn't have a golden throne, but he still has the Emperor's sword. Xiao Hua's gaze fell on the Emperor's sword in front of Immortal Emperor Go Chen and said, If the Emperor's sword doesn't come out, who would dare to use their techniques? The meaning of Xiao Hua's words was very clear. Even if others wanted to break the seal now, they had to stop and wait for Immortal Emperor Go Chen's Son of Heaven's sword to attack before they dared to try. Immortal Emperor Go Chen scowled. He knew that the 4 clans were targeting him, so how could he not use his strongest move? However, his plan to use Xiao Hua had failed. Instead, he had been forced here by Xiao Hua. It seemed that he had no choice but to take action. This made him feel very unhappy. A lazy donkey has a lot of shit and pee on it. Xiao Hua also coldly snorted and secretly criticized in his heart. At this time, you still want others to help you. You've really gone crazy from scheming all day long. If I were Dongfang Qianghao, I'm afraid I would also flip this guy over. Immortal Emperor Go Chen's body flew up and turned into 1,000 feet tall. He used his golden pupils and scanned the sky. Then he raised the Emperor's sword. Buzz. With a clear hum, the space within 1,000 miles of Immortal Town began to tremble. Then, pillars of righteous energy appeared in the void. Unfortunately, these pillars of righteous energy only appeared for a moment before disappearing. The void inside the formation was blocked, so the Emperor's sword could only channel a small amount of righteous energy. Seeing that the righteous energy was no longer there, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's body swayed. The sun and moon above his emperor's armor shined brightly. The dragon that represented the providence of Confucian cultivators stepped on the 5-colored clouds around Immortal Emperor Go Chen and roared as it rushed into the Emperor's sword. Whoosh! A light shadow and righteous energy gushed out from the Emperor's sword. Amidst the cries of dragons and phoenixes, mountains and rivers, cities and countries, men plowing and women weaving, the myriad phenomena of the mortal world, and even the mountains and seas of books were all reflected in this warm sword light. This sword light seemed to be surging with a myriad of sword intents. It was an invincible royal aura that controlled the world. It fell towards the intersection of the golden lotus clouds and the Saraira's light. Under the Emperor's sword, amidst the explosions, the clear eyes art, the 10,000 golden lotuses, and the Saraira's light that were invisible to the naked eye and divine sense were revealed. Outside of Xiao Hua's expectations, no matter if it was the golden lotuses or the Saraira, under the Emperor's sword intent and sword light, there were no special changes. The boundless images fell into the clouds and the Sarira's light, like a clay ox entering the sea, and disappeared without a trace. The Emperor's sword's body slashed into the gap between the clouds and the Sarira's light, but it also seemed to have fallen into a quagmire. It gradually slowed down, and in the end, it was actually suspended in the air. All kinds of strange images slightly trembled and then went back into the Emperor's sword. Sun Jian, on the side, took a deep breath and said, "Even the Emperor's sword couldn't do anything. Who in this world can break this innate four-cardinal formation?" Previously, there was still a grand qi flowing. Now, the four-cardinal formation seems to have been activated, and the grand qi pillar within the void has also been isolated. Xiaohua said calmly, "If I'm not mistaken, the heaven and earth essence qi of our Taoism will also be isolated. Our powers will be greatly reduced." Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha chanted and flew out. The bitter expression on his face became heavier, and he said, "Let me try. World Lord, your disciples are here to help." Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva didn't dare to delay and quickly flew out as well. He stood behind the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord, and the other Buddhist protectors and arhats also flew out and stood behind the Manjushri Bodhisattva. Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord chanted again. His voice was filled with helplessness, desolation, fading away, and even death. The radiance behind the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord's head shone brightly. Within the radiance, the power of faith flowed like a river. However, just like when the Emperor's sword was activated, the power of faith only flowed for a short while before it dried up. It can't be. Sun Jian was dumbfounded. As if he had seen a ghost, he yelled, "The earlier heaven four-cardinal formation can even stop the power of faith?" Looking at Sun Jian's shocked expression, he no longer resembled the knowledgeable true Lord Qingyue. While Sun Jian was still in shock, the radiance behind the Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva and the other Buddha's heads shone brightly. The radiance was infused with the power of faith, transforming into Buddhist lights that rushed into the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord's radiance. Instantly, within 1,000 miles, Sanskrit chants resounded. Heavenly flowers rained down, and a heavenly maiden and a heavenly dragon appeared. However, just like before, the heavenly maiden and heavenly dragon silhouettes appeared and disappeared immediately after. The heavenly flowers fell to the sky, but soon withered. The Sanskrit chants didn't stop, but they didn't have the same momentum as those on the stage. Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord chanted a Buddhist mantra, and a radiant, illusory figure emerged from the radiance behind his head, landing within the slabs of light far away. Wherever the radiant, illusory figure passed by, darkness would appear. Wisps of radiance would wither into heavenly flowers, and small kiliacosms would be annihilated one after another. The power of death and withering? Xiaohua narrowed his eyes. He had already noticed something amiss from this Buddhist light. "Oh, there's even the faint flow of time. I understand now. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord not only represents the past, but also represents death. The Maitreya Buddha World Lord not only represents the future, but also represents rebirth. Only when I've comprehended the Tao of life and death, and when Chu has cultivated the Qi of life, can Buddha Bodhi truly attain fruition. As for the Mahavairakana World Lord, not only does he represent the present, but he also represents the boundary between life and death. Shouldn't the Mahavairakana World Lord be in control of life and death? As for the pitiful Buddha Bodhi, he's only a future Buddha Lord. I'm afraid he'll never become a Buddha." While Xiaohua was pondering, the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord's radiant, illusory figure had already landed on the slabs of light. Under the radiant, illusory figure, thousands of slabs of light flashed, and the radiant, illusory figure also disappeared instantly. The space remained the same, and the scenery remained the same. It was even more traceless than a spring dream. While everyone was still in shock, Xiaohua came to a realization. After all, his thunderous palm contained the Tao of life and death. If even the Tao of life and death couldn't do anything, how could the pure power of death and withering be effective? World Lord. Seeing the radiant, illusory figure vanish without causing any ripples, Namo Wisdom Manjushri and the others' expressions changed. Just as they were about to speak, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord chanted, Namo Amitba. Then he slowly returned to the sky above the river tide temple, sat down cross-legged, and remained silent. All the Buddhas were dejected. Other than Namo Wisdom Manjushri, who was still standing in midair, the others all sat down cross-legged and silently chanted Buddhist scriptures. Sigh, this is the only bad thing about Buddhism. Seeing this, Xiao Hua sighed inwardly. He looked at the sun that was about to reach his head, as if he wanted to see something. Currently, there wasn't much wind blowing in the blue sky. Previously, there were still some clouds, but they were all shattered by Immortal Emperor Go Chen's sword. The scattered clouds floated in the air, as if they were cotton. Suddenly, as if he had thought of something, Xiao Hua's expression changed drastically. He flew into midair and scanned the area with his divine sense. Then, he opened his illusion-breaking eye and shouted, Everyone, the area within 1,000 miles of the Longevity Town has been completely sealed. Not only is the noble qi and the worldly essence unable to flow, even the air that mortals breathe has been sealed. We don't need to breathe to survive. From now on, we don't need to breathe anymore. After speaking, Xiao Hua didn't wait for anyone's response. His figure flickered, and he landed at the edge of the Longevity Town. Then, he carefully scanned the area with his divine sense. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or tip it. Thank you for all your support. Chapter 46-45. 200 years later, the Longevity Town was no longer the same as when Xiao Hua had left. Not only was the town a few times larger, but the surrounding population had also increased by more than 10 times. Moreover, due to the sutra seeking extreme bliss, the Longevity Town only had the tidal river temple and other businesses related to Buddhism. The population that was more than 10 times larger were all gathered outside the Longevity Town. When Xiao Hua had left, the desolate roads and mountain ranges were now bustling with activity. Many villages and markets had appeared. In fact, if it weren't for the restrictions of Buddhism and Confucianism, the Longevity Town would have become a county long ago. The Xiantian Four Cardinal Grand Formations sealed off the Longevity Town within 1,000 miles. Naturally, it also trapped these mortals within the formation. Without air, Xiao Hua and the other cultivators could survive. However, these mortals couldn't. Xiao Hua had to either break the Four Cardinal Grand Formation or take these mortals into the Shenhua continent. However, Xiao Hua was a little hesitant to take these mortals in front of the Dipankara Archaic Buddha and Immortal Emperor Go Chen. He was afraid that these two exalted experts would see through his secret. Especially Immortal Emperor Go Chen. That guy had the clear heavenly mirror. Fortunately, the Xiantian Four Cardinal Grand Formation had just been activated. There was still plenty of air within the formation. Xiao Hua's divine sense swept through the area. The mortals around the Longevity Town were still living blissfully and didn't realize that death was approaching. Ignorance. How nice. Xiao Hua sighed and was about to move again. He already had a plan. In the end, he had to take these mortals into the Kunlun mirror even if he had to risk exposing his secret. Right at this moment, radiant colors flickered high up in the sky. Strands of multicolored lights were formed like raindrops. Then, these multicolored lights transformed into golden lotus clouds, Sarira lights, flaming clouds, and layers of clouds around the Longevity Town. The clouds revealed by the four cardinal flags surged and transformed into Dongfang Qianghao, Shimen Jianzhong, Nangong Tianji, and Baiming Chiqing. These four didn't have secondary bodies and weren't as large as normal secondary bodies. They were only a few dozen feet in size. As the multicolored lights passed by, all colors were restrained. They looked no different from ordinary mortals. Even the expressions on their faces were clear. Traitor! When Immortal Emperor Go Chen saw the four clan masters appear, he immediately scolded them. Why did you all set up the Khanate Four Cardinal Formation to seal the Longevity Town and trap me here? Your Majesty! Dongfang Qianghao and the others didn't glare at him. Instead, they bowed respectfully and said, since the ancient immortals and Buddhas joined forces to destroy the Tao, the military school has made outstanding contributions in battle. Since then, they have taken control of the Immortal Palace, and we Confucian cultivators have all submitted. However, since His Majesty took over the hidden Immortal continent, although he barely made some achievements, it was easy for him to monopolize power. Especially in the last 1,000 years, His Majesty was headstrong and self-opinionated, listened to slander, and favored treacherous rebels. He was muddle-headed and tyrannical, which really hurt the hearts of Confucian cultivators and philosophers. Ever since the militarists took over the Immortal Palace, the 4 great aristocratic families have been living in seclusion. We don't care about the worldly affairs of the hidden Immortal continent and only support the government of the Immortal Palace. Today, the patriarchs of the 100 schools have written a blood letter to the people, begging us to come out and remove the emperor from his position. We will return the righteousness of Confucian cultivators and restore the stability of Confucian cultivators. We, the 4 great clans, place the foundation of Confucian cultivators as our priority and place the livelihood of the people as our priority. We write the 4 great clans declaration to exterminate Gaochen to the world so that it can be heard properly. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Immortal Emperor Go-Chen was furious. He swung the Son of Heaven's sword at the 4 clan masters. Unfortunately, although the sword's light could stabilize mountains and rivers, it had no effect on the 4 figures. Dongfang Qianghao continued, "We recognize that His Majesty has worked hard even if he didn't make any contributions, so we will give His Majesty 10 days to consider. If His Majesty kills Xiao Hua and abdicates, we will give His Majesty enough face and also make His Majesty the master of the Tushida Palace. If His Majesty doesn't kill Xiao Hua and abdicate at dawn 10 days later, then we will write the 4 great clans declaration to exterminate Gaochen and attack the Immortal Palace first, then destroy the Fortune Gate and cleanse the land of our Confucian cultivators." With that, Dongfang Qianghao raised his hand and took out a piece of paper. He read, "The fake Sun clan of the Lin dynasty is not gentle in nature. Shichong Zi Wei Chen, once a servant in plain clothes. Late in life, he disturbed the Immortal Palace. Concealed the previous emperor's selfishness, trapping our emperor in a trap. With lizards as the heart, jackals and wolves as the second nature. Close to evil, killing the loyal and good. Killing the elder sister and brother, killing the emperor and killing the mother. Gods and men are jealous, heaven and earth cannot tolerate. Harboring evil intentions, coveting divine artifacts. The emperor's beloved daughter, secluded in another palace. The alliance of thieves, entrusted with heavy responsibilities. Minghu. Huazi Meng did not do anything, Zhu Suho is dead. Swallow pecks the imperial grandson, knowing that the Han dynasty is coming to an end. Knowing the rapid decline of Xiating. Today's emperor is tainted, his virtue is not reported, and he is guilty of 10 crimes. First, he indulged the Taoist sect, appeased the Hongmeng, left Penglai, and did not destroy the Taoist sect. Second, he observed the rise of creation, did not engage in war, and lived with it. Third, he used the name of a Confucian cultivator to confer the title of the master of the Wuxia Palace. He was even more shameless, using the name of Thunder Master to commit immoral acts. Fourth, he used the Taoist sect's weapon to kill the elites of the Confucian cultivators, disrupting the peace of the 4 aristocratic families. Fifth, for the emperor's lack of virtue, causing chaos in the 9 states, and billions of lives could not be pacified. Sixth, for the emperor's lack of virtue, he indulged the 9th princess in the mortal world, fell in love with the remnants of the Taoist sect, and caused chaos. Seventh, for the emperor's lack of virtue, he neglected the empress, and favored the flower medicine palace. Eighth, for the emperor's lack of virtue, he trusted close officials, causing chaos in the Tianji Hall. Ninth, for the emperor's lack of virtue, he was indecisive. Seeking scriptures in paradise seemed like a grand undertaking, but in reality, he was defeated, extremely shameless. 10th, for the emperor's lack of diligence, he allowed the Buddhist sect to invade and expand the hidden immortals. From then on, the hidden immortals were not the hidden immortals of the Confucian cultivators. The 4 aristocratic families' Confucian cultivators were the old officials, the emperor. He received the emperor's achievements, and the kindness of the emperor's court. Sun Weizi's joy and sorrow were justified. How could Yuan Junshin's tears be in vain? He used anger to calm the world. Because of the world's disappointment, he followed the heart of the universe. He raised the banner of righteousness to clear away the evildoers. The south connected to the 100 Yu, the north to the 3 rivers, the cavalry in groups, connected to the jade axis. The red millet of the hailing mausoleum, the accumulation of the warehouse is endless. The yellow banner of Jianghu, how far away is the merit of restoring the country? The sound of the court moves, the north wind rises, the sword chi rushes, the south is peaceful. The mountain collapses with a whistle, the wind and clouds change color with a shout. With this to control the enemy, what enemy could not be destroyed? With this, what merit could not be subdued? The emperor's rank was either hiding immortals or assisting the emperor's relatives, or being heavily entrusted with words, or receiving orders from the emperor. The words are still in the ear, loyalty will not forget the heart. A grain of earth is not dry, how can the 6 feet of solitude be supported? If he can turn the disaster into a blessing, he can send the past to the emperor's residence, and not abolish the emperor's order, he will be rewarded with the same title as the mountains and rivers. If he is attached to a poor city, wandering the wrong path, and ignorant of the signs of the past, he will be punished in the future. Please take a look at today's domain. Whose world is it? Dongfang Qiong recited the declaration of the 4 great clans against Gaochen with a sonorous and forceful tone. It was like thunder or war drums. The area within 1,000 miles of Longevity Town was filled with grief and indignation. It was as if Dongfang Qionghao's 10 sins were true. Not to mention the mortals, even Xiao Hua secretly nodded after hearing this. This declaration was written very well. Anyone who heard it would feel that immortal Emperor Gaochen was not virtuous. The 4 great clans had no choice but to do this. All of the righteousness fell on the 4 great clans' side. After Dongfang Qiong finished reciting the declaration, he didn't stop for a moment. His figure immediately disappeared, and the clan masters of the other 3 clans also disappeared. After the 4 great clans were gone, Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others looked at each other with a bit of dismay. It was very clear that the 4 great clans were using the banner of cleaning up the Immortal Palace to force Immortal Emperor Gaochen to abdicate. If it was before, Immortal Emperor Gaochen wouldn't hesitate to order his troops to destroy the Fortune Gate in order to protect the Immortal Palace. However, at this time, the Fortune Gate's wings were fully formed. Not to mention the Immortal Palace, even the 4 great clans couldn't be seen in Xiao Hua's eyes. How could Immortal Emperor Gaochen dare to send troops to kill the Fortune Dao Palace? The more Immortal Emperor Gaochen destroyed the Dao Palace, the more he would be killed by Xiao Hua. In the end, he would still have to abdicate. Especially today in Longevity Town, if Xiao Hua dared to say he was second, no one would dare to say they were first. Who had the qualifications and ability to destroy the Fortune Gate? Because of this, the 4 great clans gave up on the 5-energy origin law and directly targeted Xiao Hua and Immortal Emperor Gaochen's position. This was a blatant display of their ambition. If it wasn't for Gaochen abdicating and killing Xiao Hua, the innate 4 directions grand formation wouldn't have been activated. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was the leader of the Immortal Palace. After hearing the declaration, he immediately calmed down and sheathed the Son of Heaven's sword at his waist. He didn't even have the intention to discuss with Taibai Jingxing and Sun Jian. He simply returned to the sky above the tidal river temple, thinking about how to kill Xiao Hua or how to escape. Seeing Immortal Emperor Gaochen's reaction, Sun Jian glanced at Taibai Jingxing. Taibai Jingxing's face was also filled with worry. He glanced at Xiao Hua and opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but in the end he didn't say anything. Damn it. The golden-winged Great Prung laughed and shouted, "You humans are really interesting. If you want to fight, then fight. Why do you need to make a reason?" However, this declaration is really well written. This saint also wants to punch Gaochen a few times after hearing it. Xiao Hua coldly glanced at the silent Gaochen. There were currently 4 forces within 1,000 li of this space: the Confucian cultivators, the Buddhist sect, the Taoist gate, and the demonic race. If Immortal Emperor Gaochen wanted to deal with Xiaohua, he could only join hands with the Buddhist sect or the demonic race, just like how they suppressed the Grand Mist Ancestor. But now, not to mention the Buddhist sect and the demonic race being on good terms with Xiaohua, even the Grand Mist Ancestor dared to appear in front of Immortal Emperor Gaochen. How could Immortal Emperor Gaochen deal with Xiaohua? If he pointed his sword at Xiaohua, he would only die a more miserable death. Therefore, Xiaohua looked at Gaochen, pondered for a moment, and said, "Your Majesty, to give it a recommendation vote, collect it, gift it, and thank you for all your support." Chapter 46-46. What's the matter? Immortal Emperor Gaochen's tone was indifferent and even a bit arrogant. It was as if he wasn't affected by the declaration at all. He didn't even feel the awkwardness and danger of his situation. He simply asked, "If you want to capture me and go to the 4 clans to claim credit, then you have made a mistake in your calculations." Xiaohua was furious after hearing this and said, "Gaochen, don't think that just because you have the clear heavenly mirror, no one can do anything to you. You have the clear heavenly mirror and a 9th grade immortal palace Wensheng. I also have millions of soldiers in my Kunlun mirror. If I want to capture you, it will be as easy as flipping my hand." Master Shaolei, Master Shaolei. Tai Bai Jingxing hurriedly flew over and bowed. "If you have anything to say, please say it." Phew. Xiaohua took a deep breath, but he immediately regretted it. He calmed himself down and pointed below, saying, "There are millions of mortals within 1,000 miles of the Longevity Town. They should be the first victims since the Longevity Town has been sealed off by the 4 great clans. Moreover, they are powerless and have no way to resist. Therefore, if possible, Your Majesty, please use the clear heavenly mirror at the right time to capture these mortals." "Who told you that my clear heavenly mirror can capture mortals?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen said coldly, "My clear heavenly mirror is the imperial artifact of the hidden immortal continent." Xiaohua knew that he wouldn't reveal the secret of the clear heavenly mirror until the very last moment. Therefore, he wouldn't capture the mortals of the Longevity Town in front of everyone. Therefore, Xiaohua coldly harumphed and ignored Huang Xiaolong. His figure flickered as he flew to the north and south, bringing all the Fortune Gate disciples into Shenhua continent. After all, the 40,000 disciples couldn't do anything in the innate 4 directions formation. They would only be fighting for air with the mortals of the Longevity Town. After everything was done, Xiaohua waved his hand and called Wenchu, Celestial Being, and the Thunderbolt Immortal to the front. He said, "Fellow Taoists, what do you think of the current situation?" Seeing that Xiaohua had gathered his clones together, Feng Wu looked at the golden-winged rock and said, "Rock Sage, let's go take a look as well. Now that we're all on the same boat, let's help as much as we can." The golden-winged rock naturally didn't have any objections, and it flew over to Xiaohua's side along with Feng Wu. At this moment, Wenchu frowned and said, "We naturally have to break through the restrictions now. But all of our methods are useless in the face of this innate 4 corners formation. Perhaps only Reverend Yun's dragon item can do it? It's a pity that Reverend Yun did not come with us, as we are currently trapped in the 4 directions formation and we can't contact him." Thunder Reverend said with a wry smile, "Otherwise, I think we would be able to work together. The innate 4-way great array is too strange." Xiaohua shook his head slightly. "Even that dragon artifact might not be able to succeed. Therefore, I'm afraid that we won't be able to break the formation by force. It's simple." The golden-winged rock smiled and said, "We can just capture Old Man Gaochen and hand him over to the 4 great families. As for what they said about first entering the Immortal Palace, then exterminating the Taoism sect, it's just an excuse. Now that the Fortune Gate is so powerful, the 4 great families might not have the energy to deal with the Fortune Gate. It's already good enough that they can deal with the military school in a short period of time. This is the 4 great families' original intention." Wenchu smiled and said, "They want to borrow Master Zhao's hands to capture Immortal Emperor Gaochen. In the future, they will use this as an excuse to join forces with the 100 schools of thought to exterminate the Taoism sect once again. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha is determined not to interfere in this dispute. Xiaohua raised his head and looked at the Buddhists who were reciting Buddhist scriptures with their eyes closed. He said, "I'm sure you've seen through the complexity of this matter. Of course, these old bald donkeys are cunning." The golden-winged roc sneered. The 4 great families besieging the longevity town is due to the internal strife of the Confucian cultivators. Although the Taoism sect is involved, it has nothing to do with the Buddhism sect. They won't let out a single word. This has always been their style. When they have to bear the consequences, they will shrink back faster than anyone else. When there are benefits, they will fly faster than anyone else. That Mahavairakana archaic Buddha probably felt that the sutra praying in nirvana this time wasn't good and knew that someone would cause trouble. That's why he didn't dare to come over and asked the Dipankara archaic Buddha to come over. Oh, this is called tribulation facing in the Buddhism sect. Seeing how the golden-winged roc wasn't interested in the Buddhism sect, Xiaohua smiled and said, "Actually, roc sage doesn't have to care about it. You just need to rest." "How can this sage be compared to those old bald donkeys?" The golden-winged roc said proudly, "Naturally, this sage wouldn't care about the 4 great families targeting old man Gaochen. However, the 4 great families even schemed against this sage. How can this sage let this go? Moreover, this sage and Dragon Master Xiao don't know each other. This sage is very willing to befriend Dragon Master Xiao. Whatever Dragon Master Xiao wants to do, this sage will support it." "Good." Xiaohua laughed and raised his palm, saying, "A roc sage like this is also someone this Xiao is willing to befriend." "Good." The golden-winged roc was overjoyed. He hurriedly flapped his wings and clapped with Xiaohua's palm. After the palm strike, Xiaohua smiled and said, "Now that this Xiao has obtained roc sage's support, why should I be afraid of this formation not being broken?" Instead, it was the golden-winged roc who was a little embarrassed and said in a low voice, "Master Xiao Lei thinks too highly of this sage. Previously, this sage and the phoenix sage had already tried. We didn't have any effective abilities at hearing the golden-winged roc being so straightforward. Xiaohua didn't understand the hidden meaning in the human's words. He nodded and said, "While a single person can surpass others and do what 100 people can do. However, if 100 people work together, what they can do will surpass that of a single person. Breaking the formation isn't just a matter of abilities. It's also a matter of methods. We still need to work together to succeed." Seeing that the golden-winged roc still didn't understand, Xiaohua said even more straightforwardly, "Also, this Xiao doesn't need any abilities to help, as long as roc sage has the heart. There are still 10 days until the deadline. In the end, if there is no other way, this Xiao can just keep the mortals in the longevity town into the Kunlun mirror. Isn't it just being trapped in the innate 4 directions formation? If nothing happens in 10 days, nothing happens in 100 days, if the 4 families have the ability to trap this Xiao for 100 years. There's no need for that." Feng Wu laughed and said, "As long as the Thunder Sound Temple and Fortune Gate don't return after half a year, they will definitely come to investigate. At that time, the 4 families will be in trouble." Xiaohua smiled and said, "There's no need to wait that long. 10 days later, the 4 families will definitely make their move. After the Immortal Palace falls, that will be the time for the 4 directions formation to be activated. The ones who should be restless right now should be the Immortal Emperor, not us." "Then why did fellow Taoist call us here?" The Celestial was confused when he heard this. "Naturally, I want fellow Taoists to look around and think of a way to break the formation," Xiaohua explained. "Although this Immortal Emperor Gaochen is a little sinister, he is still Xinxin's father. If he controls the Immortal Palace, it will be the most beneficial for our Fortune Gate. If the 4 families control the Immortal Palace, not to mention the huge war that will kill many people, just the grudge between the Fortune Gate and the Nangong family will make our Fortune Gate fight with the 4 families sooner or later. Although the Fortune Gate is strong, the Tao Gate is not. After a long war, our Tao Gate will be destroyed. A single branch is not spring, but 100 flowers blooming is spring." "Good. This sage understands." The golden-winged Great Pring nodded and said, "This sage will go to the north to investigate and see if I can find any flaws." Seeing the golden-winged Great Pring leave in high spirits, Feng Wu and the others also cupped their hands and flew away. The clones understood that what Xiaohua said was only a last resort. If they could break the seal and wipe out the 4 great clans, this was the best opportunity. The 4 directions formation surrounded the longevity town within 1,000 li. Xiaohua's divine sense swept through and understood everything. The mountain range outside the town, the paddy fields, and the Liao River at the side of the Jianghu Ridge were all clearly seen. In the following days, Xiaohua did not dare to slack off. He opened his illusion breaker eye and scanned the 4 directions formation within 1,000 li, not missing a single spot. The more Xiaohua looked, the colder his heart became. This 4 directions formation was indeed, as Immortal Emperor Gaochen said, it was a Xiantian grand formation. It could not be compared to ordinary formations, defensive formations, or Buddhist formations. Within the clouds, there were no flaws at all. Even when Xiaohua's illusion breaker eye's silver light beam fell into the clouds, it could not cause any fluctuations. In the end, Xiaohua helplessly stopped and stood in front of the mountain range like a crouching bull. At this time, it was also a moonlit night. There seemed to be some wind and rain high up in the sky, but this wind and rain could not fall on the mountain range. Xiaohua looked at the place where Lu Yi and Yuanya had a barbecue several hundred years ago. After several hundred years of wind and rain, this mountain range had changed a bit. There were fewer rocks and more trees. Even the cries of beasts in the forest had increased. However, in Xiaohua's ears, the cries of the beasts in the night were still sorrowful and helpless. Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart was also uncomfortable. In the distance of the mountain range, there were a few small villages. At this time, it should be night time, but many of the houses in the village were lit. Clearly, in these few days, some people had discovered that something was wrong, and the people were a bit anxious. Sigh, the Black Wind Ridge is not too far from here. If this 4 directions formation was a bit bigger, perhaps it could enclose the Black Wind Ridge. Xiaohua thought to himself. However, since this 4 directions formation can even seal the power of faith, the teleportation channel should not be able to be used. Even if the Black Wind Ridge is here, it should not be able to be used. Thinking of the Black Wind Ridge, Xiaohua's heart suddenly moved. He looked at Liao Jiang again. At this time, Liao Jiang was like stagnant water. There was no water flowing in and no water flowing out. Previously, Xiaohua had already used his illusion breaker eye to see that it was also sealed by the 4 directions formation.